I have a few visual aids.
Okay, I've got some stuff too. I think we're live now. It's one of those weird things where it doesn't say we're live till we're actually live. So,
Understood. And then I know we're live now, and then later on I might have a cool concert I'm working on that no one knows about yet. It's being announced tomorrow, but I'd like to share it with your audience later when the time is right.
awesome. Well, hello everyone. On that note, welcome to the first episode ever of Streams from the Gutter. When Woj, my co-host from I heard they stream live, can't make it from now on. I'm going to do this kind of thing, and for the first episode, I had to bring in my homie, the OG of the Punk Wrestling Connection, Kevin Gill, back to the show to talk about all sorts of stuff, good and some sort of tragic, sad news as well. We're going to talk about run the gamut of emotions here, Kevin, and thank you for being here, man.
Oh, dude, literally, Damian Abraham, it's literally an honor. The legacy of Turned Out a Punk, the fact that I can even be an alumni of that, and then I can be the first guest on the first episode of the new iteration of the series. Are you crazy? This is going to be bigger than the invention of dabs, I think, quite frankly. It's literally this is dab audio right here.
Well, that's the
Dab audio
thing.
and video, so it's beyond.
You and me have a lot that we relate on the subjects of, be it punk and hardcore, professional wrestling, or the sweet leaf, as it were. So yeah, we can talk about a lot of different stuff. But yeah, it's great to have you back. Like, how you been lately?
Hanging in there, man. I moved back to New York a few years ago, and I've just been getting up to speed back in the New York groove and all that. I had to leave the incredible weather of San Francisco behind. San Francisco, of course, as you know, having spent a lot of time there, it has a microclimate, and I'm a big fan of that microclimate. And I don't live in a microclimate anymore. Now it's 100 and humid in the summer, and there's frozen ice on everything in the winter. But I'm still holding on. But I feel the cold a lot more now. It must be the tofu.
Dude, that explains the ridiculous mix up earlier when I thought you were still on San Francisco time. I just thought you were doing all this shit in New York. So I'm like, oh yeah, let's do it at 7:30, thinking I was being clever converting it to your time. But no,
Yeah.
you and me are back on the East Coast.
Yes, indeed, man. And yeah, that was it worked out great for me though because I fully realized today that planning everything that it's 3 hours later than it is allows me to be fully ready, relaxed, ready to go. Like so, then it was just like, oh yeah, I could just press pause, do whatever, and jump back in.
Well, that's perfect because yeah, I was in the midst of putting the kids to bed, so it would have been a mad dash to get down here for that yeah,
But
East Coast West Coast thing.
and then not to get too much into family stuff, but I was
Yeah.
thinking about that after we discussed it, and then I'm running the numbers with the time difference. Did the kids go to bed at 4:30?
No, no, like they at 7:30 our time over here when we
Oh,
were
because
supposed to do the
okay, we're
show.
on the same. My bad. Okay.
We're on the same coast now. That's what I'm
Okay.
saying, man. We're on
Sorry,
the
I got it now. Now I got because I was like, wait a minute, his kids are going to bed at 4:30? Like
yeah. I make
that's
my kids
really
go to bed at 4:30. I put them
proactive.
yeah. I give them just a little bit of whiskey just to help them sleep and get them right to bed. No, 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 no. They're still up at 7:30, well into 9, but I feel like 7:30 is when I begin the process of getting my youngest to bed.
Yeah, yeah, just to plant the seed, you know what I mean? Start
Yeah.
moving the everything towards the goal line.
We got to read, we got to brush teeth, we got to shower. There's a lot of shit that has to happen. So, it's about an hour and a half process. So,
Yeah, it's
anyway,
great. It's a wonderful thing.
yeah, we don't have to get into too many logistics about my children's bedtime ritual or anything like that because we got a lot to talk about. Because I went back and I rewatched today the New York Hardcore documentary,
Oh
your
wow.
your big screen debut.
Yes. And I had a full accent then too. Like I still have a New York accent depending on who is hearing me, but compared to the accent I had in that video, I don't have a New York accent anymore.
Yeah, the accents in that movie are crazy. Like it's so interesting looking back on it. Like obviously it's what 1995, right? So
Yeah, what a year.
35 years this year. Um that this thing's kind of coming out, but like the way that city has changed and because of it like just the culture in that city has changed. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's literally it's so wildly different. Like I think back to those days and it's funny because H2O in their own universe has a song and called 1995, and the chorus is like, "This is the only life I want to lead in 1995." Oh! So I just love it, like that those numbers that year is so magic. And when I look back, that's the year I had the privilege of putting out the District 9 debut EP, the Vision of Disorder debut EP. Um, just at the tail end of 94, I put out that 25 to Life debut EP. So it was a nice little, that was like the ramp, you know what I mean? It was just all because every record was just, the 25 to Life record was brilliant. And then the fucking District 9 record is like, that was eight was 25 to Life, 9 was District 9, and then 10 was VOD. And that's a pretty devastating 1, 2, 3. Not to get too wrestling too early.
But it's also like you said last time on the show, like 1995, 94, 95 is where the next chapter of New York hardcore begins. And it's interesting now, like where hardcore globally has kind of gone, because I think it's really gone to that sound, like District 9. And we're going to be talking obviously about Mike, rest in peace, Puerto Rican Mike from District 9. But like that band, they sound like they would be like the kings of the scene right
Right
now.
now, it
Yeah.
would be them and Turnstile playing arenas, or them and Haywire opening for Turnstile in arenas.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely has that kind of like really contemporary feel. And it really, you see it in that documentary. That was a very low time in the popularity for that style of hardcore. Like that's the great thing about watching that documentary is like you can see all the dudes from the bands in the crowd. Like there's
Yeah,
just like
all
there's
of them.
yeah, there's like more bands than there are seemingly fans at some of these shows in that documentary.
And what I love too is the presence of the OGs. Like, although the movie focuses primarily on the everyone who's rising up, the fact that you have Jimmy from Murphy's Law, you have Roger from AF, John Joseph, other from Cro-Mags, people like that. To me, that gives the film so much depth and gravitas that it's not just like here's this window of what's happening, but I feel like that having the guys who blazed the trail and made it happen helps kind of and shows the camaraderie and the brotherhood because you know what I'm saying. Like I remember walking around the East Village and bumping into Roger on the street, like right when my favorite AF record is One Voice. And I know that's not the most common favorite.
Of all of the AF records, that's your number one voice.
I fucking love that record. And I prefer the Final Warning or Last Warning live at CBGB's. I'm the only person. I prefer that live version than the famous Live at CB's album, which is a masterpiece. But there's something about that time because that's when I fully kind of got my head around Agnostic Front and I could understand it more. And it was so hard, like with the going to, Roger is a legend. And then he's someone that we would look up to and go buy tickets to see. And then he goes to jail, or goes to prison or whatever on some bullshit. And then you run into him on the street and, so it's multiplied. Like one, oh my God, it's hardcore God Roger. And then you're like, it's Roger who just got out of prison. But I still have to step to him and try to see if he'd want to do an interview or whatever. But just to have those moments with those people and, with all the love for Roger, it's important to note too the love for Vinny Stigma because Vinny Stigma has always been the guy that's the brings the new people in and looks out for people. And Vinny was someone who was so kind to me from as soon as I started going to shows. And I'm nobody. I don't belong. I'm a weirdo. You know what I mean? And then there's Stigma being cool to me and it makes you or saying hello to you. And it was people like Stigma and Toby from H2O, all these people that were kind to me that just kind of gave me that opportunity. And it always blows my mind that I've heard the story from Craig from Sick of It All. Well, Craig was in Agnostic Front and Straight Ahead and all that. But Craig used to go to CB's and Vinny, like he met Vinny outside CB's and Vinny's like, hey, one day you're going to be in my band. You play bass? And then, you know what I mean? And then like some short time later, Craig's in fucking Agnostic Front. And I just love, and that Vinny's still doing it. You know what I'm saying? He's still representing. I can't, and Jimmy, all those guys, I can't put them over enough because without them, that's who I was listening to inspire me to put out records and shit like that, and Minor Threat and Gorilla Biscuits and all that. but then the bands are influenced by them, and then they're still cool enough that they're there and seeing the shows. And yeah, so it's just, to me, I love New York hardcore, you know what I mean? And it's a magical thing. And uh I was talking to I was, not to drop names, but I was talking to the great Lars Fredrickson from Rancid the other day, and he was saying that um a flaw of mine is that sometimes I treat everyone equally, and not in a bad way, but in the sense that I treat everyone like they have the same understanding and passion and have seen through the eyes and these songs and experiences and how hardcore shapes you and changes you and gives you this outlook on the world and this brotherhood and this, us versus them and all that. And I sometimes make the mistake of thinking like, oh, hey, like you're cool, let's be cool. You know what I mean? But not, as you know, you can't always be cool because a lot of people are one-sided or uh backstabbers. There's a reason there's a million hardcore songs written about stabbing you in the back or whatever. And yeah, so that's my ramble. But I love New York hardcore, and I wish more people could go through the filter of that to see the world in a different way and look at things differently. But yeah, I mean, all I can do is be a bridge to it, like if and try to help point people to it, or help them understand those lessons, you know what I mean? Because listening to Sick of It All in 1989 very much prepared me for the world we live in 2025. You know what I'm saying? As crazy as that sounds, like all those hardcore songs about how fucked up the government is and all this shit, they were true at the time, but they're a billion times more true now. They're written about today, but they were written in the 80s and 90s, and that's crazy for me to think about, you know?
It's interesting you brought that up too with like New York and that kind of continuity, especially from that first wave of New York hardcore to 1995. And you like in the same way, you can't really picture like and I know it's Roger's brother's band, but when Roger gets up there and sings Crucified with Madball, you can't picture Ian MacKaye getting up with Battery and singing like a song, like it just
Sure,
doesn't really kind of have the same sort of through line as New York hardcore. And maybe it's changed now because the city's
sure.
changed so much, but like certainly at that point, there was like this new crop of bands that stylistically weren't similar, but like the ideology and the sort of mentality, like you're saying, it's like still very much sort of the same way.
Yeah, 100%.
It's it's also like an interesting thing to kind of, as we talked about a second ago, like the sound that kind of pre-foretells. And I know it's kind of at the same time as sort of like new metal and rap metal is beginning to start, but there's like an authenticity to the stuff that's coming out of New York around that time and in the boroughs, obviously, as well. Like, because it's different, right? But it's like a very organic sound. Like District 9 to me sounds a lot more organic than like Limp Bizkit or
And
Corn or anyone kind of like kind of trying to do that sound from a different place.
I couldn't agree more. And it's that authentic, the Bronx is where hip hop was born. You know what I mean? It's where it was invented. It's in the DNA. And then, there's always been, you can go back to Ludacris and stuff, of band, and I'm sure others who, put in that hip hop influence, on a song or a track as a nod or an homage to it. But with District 9, I felt like there was no, oh, like let's do a rap part, or you know what I mean? It was just, and it feels so real, and it's so organic that even today, like I was listening to District 9 right before we did this, and I had told a lot of people when Mike passed away, and I was just trying to push for people to hear his music and hear how great he is. I forget the exact time code, but I would be like, listen to the first like minute and 40 seconds or whatever it is of Payback. And this is for people, whether you like hardcore music or you don't, or you like some offshoot of metal or whatever. I'm like, the first whatever seconds, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, it's just some fast music with someone yelling or whatever. And then you hear that guitar break. And so then you're completely hooked. Then Mike comes in and starts flowing over it with the, your time is coming. I won't leave until I'm done. And I'm like, sure, son, you catch a bad one. And it's so, it's like, yeah, it's so, and it's building, you know what I mean? It's just me and you kids. And what you're going to do when my 9 double M points right down on you? Because, don't give a fuck and I don't want to hear shit. It's been weeks, motherfucker. You've been looking for it. Like I still feel that in my soul. It's so fucking hard, and it's so real. And Limp Bizkit, for all their success, and they've had success beyond the success of 10 bands. But I feel like time wise, like they were years, several years after District 9. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I feel that bands like District 9 really did pave the way for that future, because then after a few years, everybody looked like the way people in New York hardcore did. Do you know what I mean? Like the fashion, the style, the presentation. It felt like everybody borrowed from it, and very few give back to it or know the roots of it or whatever. But yeah, what a time, man, and what a band. I still, yeah, like I'm looking at we were talking earlier today, you and I, about I was looking through some of my SFT stuff, and I had found this, the cover of the School of Hard Knocks record. It's like a little kid with like a shaved head and the flight jacket and the boots, and he's just so enraged, like walking down the street. That was all Mike's idea, and they did a little photo shoot. That's all produced by them. But I don't know if you can see this, but Mike had sent me
Oh, that's awesome.
this outtake shot of him, him posing, because he's there directing the shoot. So that's him and the model, so to speak, the kid. And then I could just read you what it says here. To Kevin Gill, thanks for everything you've done for us. Always remember, push forward, start your own trend, be a leader, take it from a friend. Fat for 95, N-word, Mike, District 9. And yeah, this to me is just so, and the fact that Mike, just even, I worked with a lot of bands, you know what I mean? And very, very few of them ever would even just take the time to be like, you know what? I want to thank that dude for what he did. But to me, they were so immensely talented that I feel fortunate that they would even want to work with me or whatever. And it's weird that at that time, like you said, it was a low point. So all the bands I feel like I first got to work with, whether it's District 9 or VOD or whoever, they were on the outside. They were not playing the cool rooms. They weren't playing like bands like District 9 would play at Bond Street Cafe, which is famous to us, but was a tiny little place. And there'd be matinees there, but that was our CBs. That was where bands could play and stuff like that. But all these bands came from their own world with their own sound, with their own ideas, with their own vision. And they never, it never got watered down. Do you know what I mean? They kept it that real and that raw. And it's just crazy for me to think about like how powerful those records are. Even now, I get hyped just thinking about it. You know what I mean? And it's just so, the music, the lyrics, the delivery, the charisma too. Like a lot. That's one knock I have sometimes with bands is sometimes you go see a band and like no one in the band has any charisma, and it's like, well, how did this happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You got to
it's
at
like
least have
everyone's a
one.
fucking character in New York hardcore at that point. Like in that movie, every single person could have like their own, like Loki. Like just so many people.
Oh,
You're like, this guy could have
yeah, I'm
their
gonna
own
raise like
movie.
exotic animals. Oh my God. Yeah, what a time, man. Everyone, I used to think back in the day, like I know Rick from 25 to Life, like as years went on, people have issues with him and whatever. But when I worked with him, I didn't really have any. Rick was cool to work with and all that stuff. But Rick was such a personality, and he had so much charisma, and he looked so strange, especially then. I literally thought that Rick was going to become this like breakout star or personality. Like I always pictured him hosting like a Tonight Show type of thing, where it's just him with no shirt on, with the microphone on, like that whatever, those silver ball necklace. It's like, yeah, what's up? Yo, this is Rick.
Well, like Rick to Life walked so Takeshi 6ix9ine could fly. Takeshi
Mm-hmm.
6ix9ine could fly. Like I feel like if these guys, like you watch that movie, you're like, if this shit was today,
Oh,
these guys would be the biggest stars in this whole world. And like, just go back to District 9 and the sound, like you kind of touched on it earlier, and maybe it comes down to it's like a lot of white dudes doing this kind of music, like hip hop, and even I think you could say this about early Beastie Boys was like kind of like a gimmick, or we're gonna put this in here for effect, and we're gonna like
sure.
play it up, and we're gonna like lean into a stereotype where you can't say that about any of those New York hardcore bands. Like
Mm-mm.
this is like who they are, and like
Right.
District
Yeah,
9,
nothing's added for anyone else's benefit. Nothing's added because this is what's cool now.
yeah.
It's like, this is what we do. And there's a tiny amount of people that like it. And that's fine with us. But with a band like District 9, I felt like their potential audience and their potential crossover and all that stuff, because and not only are they that good on fucking record, but from watching the movie and if you look on YouTube or whatever, they sound like that live.
Mhm.
And it's all these dudes from the Bronx that are, and the Bronx, if people don't know it, it's part of New York City, but in a way it's its own completely different world and culture and scene. And there's very little hardcore music coming out of that area, or especially at that time. And then there was these guys leading the way. Like I always think about that, like when how whatever the percentages numbers is, like you're in the South Bronx and everybody is listening to whatever and everybody's dressed a certain way, and there's young Mike with like an Iron Maiden back patch on or whatever, and or 666 on his denim jacket. And just to me, even as a person, to take that step to be like, everyone around me is into all this stuff, it's all cool and whatever, and for me it's in the background. But he just had his own all of them did their own taste, their own style, and they fully went for it. There was no hesitation, there was no second guessing or self-doubt. And I love that they were different in that regard, that you could have a bunch of Puerto Rican guys from the Bronx put it down how they do it, and sometimes for a white crowd. And with New York, the cool thing was it was diverse like that. You'd have Puerto Ricans and Dominicans and Asian people and white people. Like it was hardcore. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that's one of those things when I the famous Bad Brains, like live in '82 at CB's DVD or whatever. I love that, like when it's just getting started, with the riff and everyone's like the pressure is building up for everyone to start moshing, and there's like some hot stylish Asian girl with like the big earrings, like chewing gum, and there's all these different cultures and people together. And I always think about that. Like, imagine being that person in that moment. Like, you're this hot Asian girl, and maybe everyone in your school is doing whatever, volleyball. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, yo, I'm going to fucking the Bowery. You know what I mean? It's just wild.
Yeah, it's definitely like, and it's interesting this moment we're in now where it's so popular that you have people that aren't from it, like celebrity people claiming it now and talking about it and like
Elton
referencing it.
John said Turnstile had like the best album of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, which
That's
is crazy. Mind you, he was at the recording of the Ramones live record in 78 in London wearing a
that's
full
amazing.
SS BDSM gear
Oh
outfit.
wow.
According to Ed,
Like demolition the wrestlers type shit, or
I think
Judas
more
Priest.
more like yeah, more like Colonel Clink kind of
Oh
vibe.
wow.
I
Okay.
think as this is allegedly as described in the On the Road with the Ramones book
Okay.
about the recording of this thing. But yeah, so he's certainly had his ear to the underground at different times, but to hear him talk Turnstile like that was fucking weird, and it's just such a stark contrast to these rooms full of like a lot of dudes that were dealing with real trauma. Like a lot of people talk about the trauma they suffered in that documentary, just doing this because they have no other choice but to do this. Like there was no thought in anyone's wildest fantasy that the guy who did Crocodile Rock was one day going to be like hearing breakdowns and listening to stuff that inspires people to do spin kicks.
Yeah, like the Elton John's bumping hardcore in his Lamborghini or his Rolls Royce limo or whatever. But that's truly to me the power of music, and respect to Elton John for being able to keep an open mind, being able to hear new sounds. A lot of people, what I'm saying, if something looks different than what they want, or it has a different take on something, they don't want that. They only want what they want. So I respect anyone that can look at things objectively and appreciate things for what they are. And speaking of appreciate too, I know to me they're like the hottest band right now, because every week it seems like they just do something amazing and then they film it and it's on all over social media. Is Haywire. Like to me they're, so now you can see the building blocks. If Turnstile's up here, Haywire is coming up like this, you know what I mean? And then there's two of them. So if that's double headlining, or they're both out on their own super tours and three bands get to play underneath them, and you know what I'm saying? Like that's the future. And then how many kids who are now hearing Turnstile or Haywire or whatever band that are now going to make that leap? You know what? I don't want to be on the chess club. I want to fucking play guitar, or I want to jump on people and scream and let out these feelings.
Yeah, like this is one of those great onboarding moments that that happened with Green Day and Nirvana, and happened the first time around with like all the, I guess, the first punk explosion, where
Sure.
a lot of people are going to hear about this stuff for the first time, and a lot of people are going to come to this thing. And yeah, like not everyone's going to stay, and like not everyone's going to love this moment in hardcore, but I feel like they're also going to be inspired by this moment of hardcore because they don't like what's happening, and they're going to do something different because of it.
Thank you. And that's a flip of the coin right there. Like you could take Turnstile or Haywire or whoever, and then kind of make it into your own and take their influence and go with it. Or you could be the person like I was back in the day, like when they did the first Warp Tour, and I was like, the Warp Tour. That sounds like the biggest sellout thing I've ever heard. So hold on, let me get this straight. All these great bands are playing at the arena. Oh no, no, no. They're playing in the parking lot of the arena. Like, and to me at the time, I didn't even go to it. I was like, that shit is some bullshit. Now, granted, and it inspired me to do my own shows and do more stuff and be like, fuck the corporate placement and whatever. Hindsight being 2020, the Warp Tour is, oops, there goes my earbud.
Like you're saying it was going to happen.
Yeah, it's fallen out like 3 times already. But the Warp Tour is and was an amazing thing. It brought music to so many people, and it was very innovative. Now, in retrospect, that they, because and what does it cost to rent an arena versus what does it cost to rent the parking lot? The parking lot is dramatically cheaper. So no shade on them, but the point is your point that whether you run with it or you run diametrically opposed to it being the cool thing, regardless, either way, you're moving forward, you're accelerating, and you have some fuel to your fire. You're either part of the boom that's happening or you're creating the counterculture that exists around the boom. And either way, then everybody wins, the fans, the bands, everybody. That's like a magical thing.
Well, and I think that's, like the stuff, like I look at someone like you with the label, or Dom with from I guess Pulling Teeth, but I will always think of him with Dom from Day of Mourning. And people that championed this sound that was not popular at this time and put out these records and documented these bands when there was this sort of more dominant melodic pop punky kind of stuff that was happening, or more kind of post quicksand victory style hardcore that was also kind of happening. Like as we're saying, like you watch this movie, it's very much in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding when there's like 100 people at some of these shows, that like documenting these bands was not necessarily like a path to glory or riches. It was just because, once again, there's like a need to do it almost, I guess.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I wanted to send a shout out too to that filmmaker, Frank. I call him Frank Pavich, but I believe technically now it's Frank Pavic, or at least that's how Mike always said it. But he was a guy that I met. I met him. I had one of my first office jobs was working in a physical therapy office as like an assistant. And I thought when I got the job, I was like, oh, this is great. It's going to be all these like super hotties that are like, oh, like I hurt my butt skiing or whatever. But it was all like super elderly people that needed physical therapy. So I'm cool. I'm doing the job. And then this guy, Frank, comes in and he's like my age and cool. And he's the only person that's not elderly. So we started talking about music, and he had this Six and Violence demo that I had been trying to get, and he had it, and he was going to bring me a copy of it. And then I'm like, let me make you a tape, motherfucker. So I made him a tape of the stuff I was fucking with at that time. And then literally giving him that tape, all the bands that are in the movie were on that tape. And that all happened. But it all happened because of him. He's the guy who then gets this tape, listens to it, is so blown away by the music and the meaning and the scene. And we would talk about it endlessly. He went and got a bunch of money on his own, stacked it up, brought in. And this is back in the day where, if you want to film a movie, you need to bring in a camera operator and a special movie camera, and then cutting the film with razor blades to edit it and all that. He took all that on himself and did that. And thank God he did, because that scene and that time is now forever documented. And he wasn't done there, because then he went on to make this super critically acclaimed film called I might be saying it wrong, like Jodorowsky's Dune.
Yeah.
Which again, I just knew Dune is like, oh yeah, Dune, whatever. And I didn't know who Jodorowsky was, but Frank made the movie, so I went to the premiere. And holy fuck, what a film, and what a genius, and
Yeah.
so inspiring and all that. So I love that Frank continued to have this incredible path of outside the box filmmaking. But that's what it's all about. What Frank did with the movie is the same thing I did with the record label. Like I would hear or see these bands and be like, wow, How was so this band just has nothing out? They don't get to play good venues. They have no recorded material or just their demo. Like, how? And how can I change that? How can I fix that? And in the same way Frank put out a movie, I looked into, and shout out to MVP and Book Your Own Fucking Life from Maximum Rock and Roll. But that helped me open the door and figure out, well, how hard could it be? Do you know what I mean? Like, how much is it to make pro cassettes, or how much is it to run off vinyl? And then, okay, well, if you make it for this and sell it for this and sell it at shows, but dude, it's funny how it changed. I used to go to all these stores in New York City trying to get them to carry our records, and it was like I was bringing them a bag of diarrhea. You know what I mean? It would just be like, fuck you. You know what I mean? And then one day, and they'd be like a store, they'd be like, oh, we'll take 3 on consignment, you know? But then one day suddenly it was like the switch was flipped. And then I would be getting calls from the record store, like, can you bring 50 copies of whatever? Do you know what I mean? And it's just funny how you go from being not desired to highly desired or undeniable or whatever it might be. And we just kept doing it. You know what I mean?
Well, it's crazy because like I've always I liked this sound. I'm not going to pretend like it was my favorite hardcore sound at the time, and I've grown to appreciate it a lot more as time has gone on. But I've always respected and always collected the records. So, like for me, it was great because I could always find these records really cheap. You know, these records wouldn't be expensive records. We're now at a point where that District 9 7 inch is $50, like just for the 7 inch. Like there's like you're saying, it's become sought after as more people have kind of come to the sound. More bands have started to sound like it. Like I just had Justice from Trapped Under Ice on the
Oh,
podcast, and
wow.
the way he talks about Crown of Thorns is like it's just
And
like
shout out to them too. And I'm sorry,
yeah,
I've omitted them from our previous comments.
no, absolutely. And there are obviously the legends beyond legends, and a lot of legends in that group.
Talk
And
shit now.
yeah, yeah,
That's all
but
I have to say.
yeah, but I would never have thought of them as being a band that would become as important to like this era. Like if you look at Trapped Under Ice as being the band that begats Turnstile, like they're the band that begats Trapped Under Ice
Right.
spiritually in a lot of ways. Like that's what they're going for. And so yeah, like that's it's weird to kind of think of like them being what I don't know, like the Clash would have been to Green Day in a weird roundabout way.
Right. That it's wild. And you drew the comparison earlier, like where the punk rock boom, the kind of the second punk rock boom that changed everything, where it was like what I always loved is it was because it was a triple bill. Like you had mentioned the two bands, Nirvana
Nirvana,
and Green Day, but
yeah,
I always feel like it was Nirvana, Green Day, and Rancid, and the Offspring.
and Offspring, yeah.
Like, and that was like they were the kind of the four, and they all kind of touch, you know what I'm saying? They touched on different things, and Nirvana was Nirvana and Green Day was Green Day. But because they could hit, you know, kind of touch different spots on your brain, so to speak, like it was a great way to roll it out, in other words, because whether you liked one part of something or the other part of something, there was something there in one of those bands or all of those bands for you. You know what I mean? To be inspired by, to take, and they changed the entire music industry. You know what I mean? It's pretty fucking wild.
It's interesting though when you talk to someone from the Bay Area about Nirvana and the effects of Nirvana, they're like, yeah, like for us it was Faith No More.
Oh
And like
man.
the same effect that Nirvana had on the rest of the country, Faith No More had already kind of had on stuff there, Mortem and all the kind of like stuff really kind of blew up in their success kind of wake. And it's interesting because like I kind of look at Faith No More as having more of a an influence on kind of the sound that we're talking about than Nirvana does, you know, the
Sure.
kind of groovier side of things. And like certainly like Faith No More is a band that I think, well, at least they believe were heavily ripped off by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and it
Yeah,
feels
they certainly definitely believe that. And I can't dispute them. But it's funny how that works because the Red Hot Chili Peppers were first. So then everybody felt that like Mike Patton was copying Anthony Kiedis at the time. That's, as a New Yorker, that's how I didn't feel that way personally, but I would hear people saying that.
yeah. And I've always felt that the Red Hot Chili Peppers were kind of aping Big Boys in what they were
Yeah.
doing, and you know,
And
I've
to me, it's hard to interrupt you. Like
no, go ahead.
what Mike Patton can do as a vocalist is so superhuman, that like all the dancing and all the weightlifting and all the being naked, it can't even touch what Mike Patton could do. Anthony Kiedis is talented and creative and all that, but Mike Patton is on a completely different level of performance and ability and all that stuff, in my opinion. Like his voice is an instrument, like his mind is an instrument. He's like a creative genius. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Justice, speaking of genius kind of things, like kind of put in perspective, because I was kind of downplaying Nirvana as being like my favorite band of that era. And he's like, "Oh, who are your favorites?" And I'm like, "Well, Sonic Youth, Dinosaur Jr., Melvins." Like I was running through like Red Cross, and he's like, "Well, yeah, like they're different than Nirvana. Like what Nirvana did was like we're able to compress all this different stuff into something very marketable." And I think you can kind of say the same thing about Faith No More versus Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, it wasn't necessarily about artistic pursuits, which is definitely what Faith No More is. Like you look at all those guys and their other side projects, their other endeavors. Whereas the Red Hot Chili Peppers, it was like, okay, how do we take this and make it huge? Like,
Yeah. And like I love where Faith No More came from, particularly the Mike Patton part of it, where he was doing the weird one of the weirdest bands ever, Mr. Bungle, and then he moved over to be in Faith No More. Where so to me, that's coming from the underground. That's coming your way up and all that. No offense to the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but to me, as a fan, even though they were very good, I was like, they're just like signed to Warner Brothers from the jump. You know what I mean? And they have that machine behind them, and that's great and good for them. But do you know what I'm trying to say? Like it
yeah,
to me, that doesn't resonate as well because to me, everything's about the making it on your own, the blazing your own trail, the cutting your teeth, to showing and proving and all that. And if you just start like, oh, we're on Warner Brothers Records, you know, hello, Flea. It's just I don't know. It's not the
well,
same to me, you
like
know?
Flea had come from the LA punk scene, right? Like he
Oh
was.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Let me just.
My bad.
No, no, it's me. I can
Just hit
record
your Flea line again.
it. All right, there we go. Recording it onto the cloud now. Yeah, like I think with like as I was saying with like Flea, like he came out of LA Punk. He was in Fear or like a lineup of Fear, and had played in like bands and was kind of part of the scene. And it's kind of like I guess Rage Against the Machine. Like Zach was 100% part of the scene. I
Sure.
don't know if any of those other dudes were. Like I
Right.
certainly haven't heard about them playing in other bands, and they're another band that just like went right to the major. Same with the Killers too. The Killers were another
Yeah.
band that went right to the major. It's always weird when that happens.
I think the weirdest thing ever about Rage Against the Machine, who I consider to be phenomenal and incredible, is that somehow in the years that passed, in the modern times, people are like don't understand what Rage Against the Machine is fucking singing about. That's
Yeah.
the part that's so hard for me to understand. Like these towards the end of Rage Against the Machine, I saw Rage Against the Machine a lot. I was lucky to see them from their earliest days. Although one of my great regrets is they played. It was them and Body Count played CBGB's. It was probably like a record
Fuck.
launch or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
because in other words, it was unknown what Body Count was, and the other band, I just knew it was rap metal. And I remember I was gonna go, and I love Big Ice T fan, and it's one of those decisions where you're like, bunch of like rap metal and like Ice T's gonna fucking do metal. Like, I could probably miss it. And that's one of those immortal and iconic shows that I wish I had gone to. But the thing about Rage Against the Machine, I feel like, is that their message still to this day is so powerful, so true, so compelling, and it's so direct. It's not like it's hidden. You know what I mean? They're not one
No.
of those bands where the song has a name like Tiptoe Through the Tulips, but then the chorus isn't that. Like they're hitting you over the head with the fucking meaning and the message, and somehow part of a generation doesn't understand what they're speaking about or tries to somehow think that like Rage Against the Machine is like a right-wing band or something. And I,
Yeah.
I do remember that towards the tail end of Rage Against the Machine, going to see them, like one of the last times I saw them in their original iteration, and almost everyone seeing them at this giant show was like an asshole. You know what I mean? And it was so different from all the other times I had seen them, where it was like, you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
got to jocks, just like the Beastie Boys or whatever. But the Beastie Boys somehow, it was still cool. Like you still had to be somewhat cool in a way. But Rage Against the Machine, they can't control who comes to the shows. And at the end of the day, it opened it up to dummies, and I guess those are the dummies now who don't understand what the fuck they're saying.
Yeah, like I guess the flip side of how great a moment is where everyone gets on board and learns about this stuff is it can dilute it. And not to say ideologically, like I identify with the political beliefs of every single person in the room in that New York hardcore documentary that I keep referring to, but at the same time, like everyone in that room, and not that everyone in that room shared the same political beliefs, but like you were saying earlier, they were all filtered through the same place. So there was like sort of this like world view, world perspective that was shared. And the bigger the stuff gets, the more people have to come in that don't necessarily understand that perspective. And like you're saying, like eventually there's a tipping point where there's more of these assholes than the people that maybe were originally supportive of the thing. And yeah, like I feel like that's why Zach does what he like. If I
Yeah.
were Zach De La Roca, I'd be like, fuck it. Like, why would I want to do this? Like, I'm just gonna, if people that get my music have it and they can understand it, and then, but I'm not gonna go out there and play for these assholes that don't get it.
The only thing I wish is that as just as a person and as a fan, whether it's Zach, Rage Against the Machine, or other bands of that ilk, I feel like again, they don't owe anyone anything, but at the end of the day, like the last few years and today and going into next year, it feels like we need Rage Against the Machine more now than we did in '92. But there is no Rage Against the Machine now,
Yeah.
and to me, there's not one in the pipeline either because seemingly everyone has come to terms with the idea of like, oh well, there's a lot of weirdos that are like full of hate and intolerance and whatever. But at the end of the day, we have to sell shirts and tickets and whatever, and we don't want to say anything that's gonna alienate someone. But I don't know. It's hard. You can't lose sight of like that. I learned so much from hardcore and punk rock and the stuff the bands would say to the crowd and the messages of the songs. And in some ways, and I know there's bands that still do it, but in some ways that aspect of things seems lost to me. Like outside of all people, like the Dropkick Murphys are up front and right there, but then who else? Do you know what I mean? And that's what's crazy. Where if this time was swapped with 1992, every band would be like on board with like fuck this, like we have to make a stand, so that's the only thing that makes me sad nowadays. But I understand business, you know what I mean, and how it works. But even so, you could do business and still get your shots in, still make your points, still convey this bigger meaning and message to people, because that's the hope, right? The people that are coming to the show, the people that are finding this outlet through this music, they're learning and growing with you. They're going to take those lessons and go out and do their part, big or small, to make the world a better place, to make the scene a better place, to make their life a better place, And I don't want to see that lost because people are afraid. And I understand why they're afraid. Now, if you say something, people are going to call up your day job and try to get you fired. People are going to do all this terrible stuff to you just because you don't agree with someone doing the wrong thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No, it is crazy, but I think it's also, I don't know, like just to be devil's advocate on it, because like I still feel like it is important for bands to say things, and
Yeah.
it's in particular to say things, because I think what gets put into the music and the lyrics, sadly, people don't always read the lyrics and can get lost. So it's almost like you have to spell it out. But then, like you said, with Rage Against the Machine, even if you do spell it out for people in a way that there's no fucking way they could separate the message from this thing, they still find a way to. Like I always talk about this spin article about the Free Tibet show that they
Hmm.
had in, I think it's like one of the last ones they did in '99. And the Beastie Boys handed out like free Mumia shirts, and a contingent turned them inside out and wrote "Fry Mumia" on them as like a reaction. And it's like these people were still there singing along to the music, like clearly ideologically nowhere near where the band on stage were, but they're able to kind of selfishly still enjoy it and take it in. So it's, I don't know, I've always been like of two minds. And then also certainly as we saw in the '90s, like with veganism and straight edge and all these bands that would claim it super hard, and then you'd find out they were secret sippers, or only one dude in the band was vegan and not really vegan. And it would be like, it would somehow diminish everything else and any other band that was kind of in that space as being like, well, maybe they're fake too, or
Sure.
so I don't know, like these are things that I definitely grapple with all the time, and like what's the best way to use your platform that doesn't hurt the thing that you're trying to help.
Right, 100%. And one of the things back when I got to do SFT Records, like seeing that, like, all those things you talked about right there, seeing that, I wanted to be, and I wanted the label and the bands to be the fucking opposite of that. I always remember saying, we don't give a fuck what you eat, what you don't eat, if you drink or smoke weed, what God, what imaginary God or whatever you worship or believe in or don't. Fuck all of that. What does that have to do with fucking anything? I again, Earth Crisis, I know are widely respected and they're nice guys and everyone likes them. Good for them. I'm just going back into my mind from those days. And I'd always be like, and my perspective may be wrong, but I would always be like, oh, like it's time to destroy the machines. We're going to destroy the machines, but not the machines that press our records, not the machines that we play our music through, not the machine we drive to and from the gigs, not the machine that makes our shirts. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm vegetarian now, but I wasn't then. So I would see flaws in these things, but that's just me personally. While I saw a flaw, there was thousands and thousands and thousands of people who connected with this and stuff. There was things that got to me, and again, I'm just judging superficially, but I'd hear like things like, oh, we're gonna like burn up people who have abortions in a firestorm, or if you drink, we're gonna burn you up. And I'd be like, this is some really stupid fucking shit to say to me. But I respect that for someone who's coming up and doesn't want and is gonna make that hard turn in life to turn away from drugs and being fucked up and all this other bad shit. Maybe that's the kick in the ass they need, but I don't know. That's just my.
The pro life thing with Earth Crisis is really interesting because that was like the very first 7 inch. Like they obviously wrote that song that I certainly do not share the belief with, but they very quickly pivoted. And I think it's even in the next pressing, there's like an insert
Hmm.
sort of trying to say, like, we don't feel fuck with these lyrics. I mean, now I may be making that up. This might be some 90s memories hazily coming through, but I'm pretty sure. And I feel like that's also part of this thing too, is like meeting these guys. Um, Harley's a great example. Like guys that at one point were, I don't think I would have wanted to be in a room with them, like
Mhm.
for an extended period of time,
Sure.
and then watching them kind of like go through shit, get a little humbler, a little more self awareness. I just talked to Choke recently from Slapshot, and just to hear him kind of say the same thing. Elgin James from Righteous Jams and makes the TV show The Mayans and founder of FSU, like hear him kind of like echo these sorts of things where I feel like that's part of it, is also like having room for people to grow and having room for people to change. And obviously there can be regressions with some of these people too,
Of
where
course.
they get
And
worse.
that's the thing too, I guess, that's different from nowadays. Because at the time, in other words, I didn't like Earth Crisis. I didn't like the message that I felt like they
Mhm.
represented, but good for them. I didn't try to sabotage them. I didn't try to get them taken off shows. Do you know
You
what I
weren't
mean?
throwing
And
Velveeta cheese at them at shows or yogurt at
I,
shows.
I remember the first time I heard about that, where I would hear stuff about Earth Crisis that would always make me think in different ways. You know what I mean? I remember hearing like, oh, those Earth Crisis guys, they'll go and tour Europe and there's like no food for them to eat. So they'll just they just survive on like hard candy and French fries. And I'd be like, man, well, that's one, that sucks. But two, that's commitment. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
okay, you're going to do a whole tour on fucking hard candy. That I respect that grind. You know what I mean? But then I would hear about like when they'd come out of the venue, there'd be like bologna or whatever processed meats on all the door handles of their van and shit like that. And I'm like, like that again. I just personally don't agree with it, but I don't think that they should be harmed. They should be bothered. It's just that you're not going to get my dollar. You're not going to get my ear, just as a fan. You know what I mean? But it's just and that's cool, like you said, because then people can grow and whatever. And I remember one time, I don't know why, but somehow me and Dean from No Redeeming Social Value ended up, I think it was outside CB's and Earth Crisis was playing. And we were like, oh my God, like we have to go inside. But then we were almost like, what's going to happen? Do you know what I mean? Because this world, again, it's you hear all this stuff or whatever, and then you're there at the door. And then like Dean is, notorious partier. The band's about drinking, and I'm a fan of all that shit. So then I'm like, if we just go in there, are people going to be cool to us? Are people going to? But it was just then you go inside and everyone was nice, and I think we had met Carl, just said hello or whatever, and everyone was cool, and that also was like, oh, cool. Like you know what I mean? Each one of those things made me a little bit less on my high horse about like, oh, these guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, they're it's funny too because at that time it was all like just legends that you'd hear about these bands. Like I remember going to see Propagandhi for the first time and being like, if I wear leather shoes, are they going to beat me up? Because I had heard a rumor that they hit a guy in the face with a mic stand for heckling them during a set. And I'm like, oh shit, will I be okay? But like, of course, it's just like a punk band. And it's just
Yeah,
like, like very rarely is it fight on sight when you walk into a show. And it's
yeah.
just like a
They just
normal
dropped the
person.
instruments.
Yeah, exactly. And we're just beating the shit out of you.
This guy's got cheeseburgers on his breath. Kill him.
Yeah. And obviously, like the Earth Crisis pro life song from the first 7 Inch Aside, like, I mean, for that, it's amazing just how the vegan stuff threatened people. Like you're saying,
Yeah,
people wearing
100%. And
Kelowna.
and what's crazy is it still threatens people to this day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember one time I was doing commentary on a wrestling show, and we're throwing to intermission. So I'm just like, hey, everybody, like, you got 15 minutes, make a drink, throw a burger on the grill, have a fucking veggie burger, and we'll be back in 15 minutes. And then this one guy just had like a meltdown and was sending me all these hate messages. And then I blocked them, and he's writing all the shit about me on the internet. And it's like, dude, I offered the meat option first. You know what I mean? Like I said, get a burger or a veggie dog or whatever it was. But why are you so mad about it? I can sit down with you and you can eat a steak and I'll eat a Beyond Burger, and I don't care. I'm not mad. I'm not disgusted. Nothing. We're just two people eating. So why are you so mad about it? And I think sometimes people just get mad at people that look outside of the basic parameters of society. Like you get, hey, oh, you're a boy, like you should watch baseball, and what's our local team? You got to buy the $150 jersey, and we get this is what we do. We just do the government approved hobbies and interests and things like that. And I think sometimes people just hate people that go outside the box and people that are brave enough to try something different. My move back in the 90s into being a vegetarian or whatever was inspired equally by the Gorilla Biscuits, Cats and Dogs, and KRS-One songs Beef. And that line, that if you think there's not drugs in meat, like you'll see something like you'll see you can't compete, like just try to stop even for 2 weeks or however the line goes. And I was like, wow, that he's challenging me, like literally. And that sounds like an interesting challenge. Here I am, Mr. Dinty Moore beef stew and Mr. Bacon. Could I stop eating meat for 2 weeks and take this KRS-One challenge? And I did. And then I never went back to it. But it's just amazing how it can work. You know what I mean? Of just getting messages and ideas and things out there, and from two totally different sources. I think that's what made it so powerful. Like the Gorilla Biscuits take on it and KRS-One's take on it. And I'm like, well, man, this is fucking compelling as fuck. Like I feel like a heel. You know what I mean? I think I'd like to change, but most of us are stuck because cats and dogs have all the luck.
Maybe it's just something about wrestling and veganism where you either are a vegan or you fucking hate it. Because when MVP was over, one time I had made vegan Jamaican style beef patties
Oh, fuck yeah.
and I offered him one. And there's been a few times where I've looked at MVP and said something and I can see the respect for me drain from his eyes, like visually. I'm like,
Yeah,
wow.
the meter is
Yeah,
being
like
reduced.
it's like one time I said Steely Dan sucked
Oh,
and he fucking I thought he was
that's
gonna
like his
punch me.
favorite band
I thought he was gonna punch me in the face. I'm like, I'm gonna get punched in the face over
by
Steely
MVP,
Dan
and
by MVP.
he's one of the last people I would want to punch me in the face.
He would definitely knock me out. There's no fucking way I'd be able to take that
Glasses
hit.
broken,
Yeah,
teeth,
like
nose. Same
over.
thing. Like I use that. I think about that all the time. Like I'm just like you. Like I'm friends with MVP. He's a great fucking guy, and we love hardcore music and we love wrestling. But then these days I do a lot of deathmatch wrestling commentary, and he's just like, man, like I wish you were just calling some other show. Like I wish you and Vinny Stigma were calling a regular wrestling show and not a deathmatch fucking show. but it's like I respect his opinion. Like if MVP doesn't think deathmatch wrestling is worth watching, I don't agree with that opinion. I'm gonna watch it, but I respect the fuck out of him. If that's how he feels, I'm not mad about it. You know what I
He,
mean? Everyone can like what they like.
he's like, and also I feel like he regressed on this position because at one point we had this conversation. I'm like, listen, what you do, it's like Iron Maiden. You know, you're at this level where you're playing a stadium and you're entertaining millions and billions of people, but there's room out there for Straight Ahead or New York City Mayhem or like, you know, like some weird obscure black metal band in someone's basement or New York Sacrifice or something. Like there's room for all of this shit. It doesn't always have to be Iron Maiden. And you know, there's people out there that can't play like Iron Maiden, and there's also people out there that just can't relate to Iron Maiden.
Sure.
And I feel like that's with deathmatch wrestling. Like there's a type of itch that scratches for people, and I think people's stereotypes of the audience is a little weird sometimes based on who actually you see at these shows. It's like a mix of people that are
Yeah.
into this stuff.
And I love seeing all the music people. That's my favorite thing is sometimes when I'm calling a show, if I'm sitting in the back on a monitor and all I can see is everyone in one section of the crowd at the back of their shirts, and I'll see someone with just even with a DRI shirt or any band that I like, if I see someone with that shirt on, that to me is an amazing thing because this person loves music and somehow like me they've been brought into this world, you know what I mean? I wish deathmatch wrestling drew more fans because to me, just like hardcore, it's the most hardcore form of wrestling. It's insane. You're right there, you're fucking involved with it, you're pretty much going to get blood and glass on you and stuff like that. And I understand not everybody wants to do that, but as an experience, it's just like CB's hardcore matinee. You can go see IS at Madison Square Garden, or you could see the Gorilla Biscuits or Murphy's Law at CB's. They're both concerts. They couldn't be more different. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
if you just took a random Kiss person and put them on the corner of the stage for Murphy's Law at CBGB's, I know they would have the best time ever, even if they didn't understand anything. If they could just see it and feel it, because it's so pure and it's so real and it's so infectious. And when you see how it affects everyone and the vibe and the tone, you know, I think it would open up a lot of people's eyes, you know?
I think like this is getting really stoner history on shit, but like if you go back and look at Shakespeare and the way Shakespeare was received at the time that it came out, it wasn't for a highfalutin audience. It was looked down upon, the people that would go and see Shakespeare at the Globe Theater. It was
Yeah,
just
he
like,
was like comic books or wrestling of his time.
exactly. And like with deathmatch wrestling, you say it's the most extreme type of wrestling. I go further. I think there's no other type of entertainment on earth that is that
Yeah, you're
extreme.
right. You're 100% right. And to me, how it's not um, just more of a phenomenon. How is it
Mhm.
not a late night series on a cable station or one of these a streaming service like, you know, a giant one, Max or Netflix or whatever. Granted, it would be on at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever it has to be. But in this time and in this reality, that the catharsis, just like a mosh pit or a hardcore show, the catharsis, the violence, the performance, the good versus evil, bringing everyone together, it's grassroots. So, like your ticket to buy that ticket, you're like a shareholder in the live events. Like the live event couldn't happen without you. Do you know what I mean? It's literally that personal. You know?
I think you'd have to completely recontextualize it for people to strip it away with their preconceived notions about what it is. And you see that a little bit with that Darby Allin Raymond Pettibon show that
Mm-hmm.
happened. I've got a few friends that went there from the art side of things that didn't know pro wrestling and were really blown away by it. I think Darby wasn't obviously doing a death match there, I don't think. And like there's definitely but I think if you put a death match on in a gallery for an art audience, not a wrestling audience, they would appreciate it. And like I'm not an expert on performance art, but I've seen a couple crazy performance art pieces. Nothing compared to fucking deathmatch shit. Nothing
no
touches
offense
that.
to no building on that point, like no offense to Gigi Allen and his legacy and whatever. And he was a performance artist and he was shocking and offensive and he's a legend to this day because even more so now it seems like than at the time it was happening. But what was my point there?
Just deathmatch wrestling
Oh yeah,
compared.
like in other words, deathmatch wrestling is more way more extreme because Gigi Allen's one guy doing maybe a 30-minute set at most before shit goes south. And yeah, he's gonna throw shit on you and he's gonna get bloody. But again, it's just one guy. It's not 3-on-3 with barbed wire ropes or you know what I mean? It doesn't go that hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel it's different because of, like you're saying, it's two people that are working together to put on this artistic display. Whereas Gigi Allen, the consent is you're going to the show and whatever happens, happens. Like there wasn't a lot of intention and methodology to Gigi, whereas I feel
Yeah,
like
he was an improver.
he was in a whole yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're gonna do the shit thing tonight. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe imagine the
No,
set list like
that's his free bird,
I
dude. He's
know.
got to do it every night.
You imagine the set list like intro, whatever, whatever, parentheses, shit.
Dude,
A few songs later, hit lady with microphone.
Gerard Cosloy, Gerard Cosloy from Matador Records and Conflict, who was in two lineups of Gigi's band, has this amazing story where they practiced super hard and they're like, let's just do a show. Like, none of the bullshit. Let's just do the show. And he showed up to the show. He's like, guys, I fucked up. I took a bunch of laxatives. They're like, no. And went on stage.
I love that. That's just what do you think they were M and M's?
Yeah, they just like left him behind afterwards. He's like, I'm gonna have to take the bus home. They're like, yeah, fuck you. We
Back to
we
New
really
Hampshire,
wanted
you
to try.
bastard.
Yeah. But where's this deathmatch wrestling stuff? It's like two people that have trained, and I know our mutual friend MVP would debate us on that side of thing, but you and I both know like all these guys train. Like they all do the same sort of basic wrestling training and they understand the mechanics of wrestling. It's just that they've chosen this and it's like I love it. Like I'm so fascinated by it because it's like it's like this New York hardcore documentary where you're playing this show, you know it's gonna suck. Like there's gonna like for the show there's gonna be a million fights. You're probably not gonna get through your set, or you're gonna play this thing to this tiny venue where you're gonna hurt yourself. There's no way you're not gonna hurt yourself, but you do it because that's what you fucking do, and you do it because that's how you choose to express yourself, and that's yeah, like the mentality of deathmatch wrestlers, the vibe they have, and even wrestlers that because like guys do both, but like I find guys that are going to do deathmatch wrestling on a deathmatch show, like their mentality the whole day is so intense and so different than any other wrestler because it's such a commitment to do this kind of thing.
I agree, and I think a lot of people overlook what I call like the hybrid wrestlers, like the Drake Youngers, the Alex Colognes,
Mm-hmm.
and there's many others, but people that are just amazing professional wrestlers, period. And then with that foundation, they take it to the extreme and they become the state of the art, top tier deathmatch wrestler with that amazing, scientific wrestling ability, high flying ability, whatever it might be. It all comes together. And that, you know what I'm saying? That's like to me the ultimate because you get the big moments and the wows, and then that's all setting it up for the blood and the violence.
Rest in peace, Danny Havoc. I feel like if
Yes.
Danny Havoc had been born in New York or Los Angeles or even Toronto, he would be directing like a
Mm.
Royal Tannenbaums level of movie. Like he was like a genius and just this was the canvas that he had to work in on.
That and his drawings. I always look at
Oh
it.
God.
I aspire to own one of it, just anything, a doodle. Like I want to own a piece of his art. I have so much respect for Danny Havoc and what he did and what he was capable of doing. And I always remember one time I got booked to call a show here in Queens, New York, and I found out I usually didn't know much about the show beforehand, but this one I found out a day or two in advance. I was going to be calling the show with Danny Havoc. And I was just like, my first thought was like, oh no, not because I don't want to call the show with him, but I'm like, oh no, like Danny Havoc's like this fucking god. And then I come and sit at the commentary table. He's probably like, fuck you, or who is this fucking loser, or why? That's how I came into it. Like, oh no, like these people aren't going to like me. Who am I? I'm this outsider and whatever. And I go over and sit down at the table like a minute or two before we go on the air. And Danny comes over and he's like, Kevin Gill, I've always wanted to work with you. It's so nice to meet you. And I'm like, Danny Havoc, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, I thought you were gonna be mad that he's like, why would I be mad, bro? And then we called the whole show and it was amazing. And to this day, I still often he said so many great things on commentary, but the one that always stayed with me is, when something's going, when it keeps going back and forth, that hither and yon. It just sounds so great on the mic. And yeah, he could drop all these historical references and
Yes.
things I could never imagine. But what a talent, what a mind, what a dude. He had size, he had ability, he had a creative vision, and now we have to be in a world without him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like out of anyone I met while working on that show, he was the one who kind of stayed with me the most, just like this human being that was just so, like you're saying, so smart, so creative. I would have loved to have put him and MVP together,
Oh
because
man.
he could have, the way he thought about it, the way he approached it, it wasn't just some like outlaw mud show or whatever disparaging remark someone wants to throw at it. Like it was art. And like you're saying, he sketched it out, he drew it, he storyboarded this shit in a way that, God, like most movies don't have as beautiful storyboards as he kind of did.
No, definitely not. He's truly one of a kind, without a doubt, man. Yeah. I don't even know what to say. He was just so great.
It's funny because, like you said, when I first met him, because I think there's a huge difference between Nick Gage pre 2020 and post 2020, where like very much like Harley Flanagan, as we're talking about in this modern era, has changed. Like when I first met Nick, I was like, and a lot of those guys in that locker room like were pretty intimidating dudes, and like they're tough guys, and they let you know they were tough guys. Whereas Danny certainly was a tough ass fucking dude, but at
And big.
taller than I ever gave him credit for, until I'm standing beside him being like, fuck, yeah, this guy, but he's also just like such a kind, empathetic
Yeah.
spirit. And yeah, I miss that dude like crazy.
Truly one of a kind. One thing too, I know because you and me are old, like we also, and so I mean MVP got to see the same thing, but for me, like the validation of deathmatch wrestling on a global scale started with Foley and Funk in Japan for the IWA King of the Death Match. And then that was so popular underground and trading and every other way that it still blows my mind that back in the day for the cover of WWE Raw magazine, they put that famous picture of Mick Foley with the Cactus Jack with the barbed wire bat in the ring in Yokohama or whatever on the cover of the fucking magazine. And they showed all the footage and then Mick's doing the Hell in the Cell and all that stuff. He brought it, Mick and Terry and all those guys brought it to such a level and to so many people. And them and DCW is why I feel like we have the deathmatch scene we have today, because the people that grew up seeing that stuff or being influenced by it, a certain number of them, just like with bands, were motivated to be like, that's going to be me one day. You know what I mean? And the thing I love about whether it's deathmatch wrestling, hardcore music, all of it, it all comes from nothing. Like there's literally nothing. There's just a person who usually doesn't have a lot, and all they have though is an idea. And then with nothing, with no resources, with no anything, whether it's writing of the song or doing the match, they make art in real time, like sometimes improvisational, sometimes laid out. But that's like an amazing, amazing thing. And I always remembered a few times where wrestlers I've known got picked up to do a little spot in a movie or even something I might have been peripherally involved in. And the stunt crew is always blown away because you know how movies are. And if a guy's going to fall out of a chair, they film it 47 times from 50 different angles and crash pads and whatever. So then when a wrestler comes in and just does it in one take, just do it. Are you ready? You're filming? Okay, ready. Here it is. I'm going through the window. And
Yeah.
I think the stunt people are so taken aback because in a way you're almost taking away their secret sauce. Like, guys, slow down. We get paid an 18-hour day to throw someone out the window. Like, don't just fucking jump out the window. Even me, I had a part in a Western film one time and I get shot at playing cards. So they're like, all right, they have a squib on me. And then they're like, So I'm like, do you want me to fall out of the chair? Do you want me to slump over? Like, yeah, fall out of the chair. So I'm like, cool. So we're doing the scene and they shoot me. And, you just push the chair and I just fell backwards off the chair and hit the floor and I sold it. And then they stopped filming and we're like, oh, what, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, you said to fall on the fucking floor. Like, no, you can't. Like, you can't fall on the floor. Like, then they got all these pads and all this shit. And it's like, well, I already did it. But okay, so then I did it again. And then ironically, in the same scene, there's a guy also sitting at the table playing cards with me, and he's going to be killed. And thank God this wasn't me. So they have him get killed with a shotgun, and then they have him on one of those wires. So he's just going to get yanked out of the frame when he gets shot. And I'm sitting next to him. You know what I mean? I did my fall out of the chair. We shot it a few times, and now I'm back in position and we're shooting him. Dude, I'll never forget it. When they shot him with the gun and the squib went off, he's holding these cards, and I'm right next to him looking at him. And then he's just gone. Like it was like one of those movies, just like gone. And the cards were still, you know what I mean? The first half a second, the cards are still there. And he got pulled so fucking far, like at least 30 or 45 feet in a half a second. All the wind's knocked out of him. He's fucked. And he's not a fucking actor or a stunt person, nor am I. But I still couldn't get over, like, you guys were freaking the fuck out that I tipped my chair back and fell on the floor. And yet, then you just connected this guy to a fucking high pressure wire and just shot him across the room and almost fucking killed him. Go figure.
It's wild when you think about the amount of stuff that happens in an average wrestling show.
Oh, man.
And obviously guys get injured all the time and I don't mean to diminish it, but the amount of wild shit that happens for the amount of people that walk away from it, it's like, wow. Like it's crazy. And I guess it speaks to the training and the talent of the people involved that they're able to walk away from this stuff. But like shit, the stuff I've seen Darby Allin do to himself for like 150 people watching. Like not even like now it's like at least the world's watching
Yeah,
a
now
little
he's
bit.
in an arena and on HBO Max, and he's getting his due. And shout out to him too. I've just recently somehow learned through Instagram that he has a clothing line and stuff, but I didn't know that like even a week or two ago. So I'm like, oh, how long has he been doing this?
He's been
Because
doing it for
it
like
seems omnipresent online.
yeah, he's been doing it for a few years. My friend Rake runs it with him
Oh,
and
nice.
Hoodlum, I think it's called,
Yeah.
right?
I
And
remember he would
even
always sign his autographs with Hoodlum, but I thought that was more his own branding. I never even realized he had it like that. And I will say, AEW should fucking promote that shit more. There should be people wearing that stuff in the shots and throw them a 15-second commercial once a month. You know what I mean? Let that shit happen.
AEW is it's like I went to All Out in Toronto and it was like and I have the same problem going to like a lot of hardcore shows now where everything's too good. Like there's nothing bad to kind of like let you be like, oh man. So when the next thing amazing happens, you're like, wow, that was amazing. Like there were at least half the matches on that card that felt like they would have been main events on any other card. And it was just, I think it speaks to the level of talent that's kind of like around in that company that they're able to kind of put on these matches. And yeah, like I wonder how you'd fit anything else into their programming. I know they've got so much programming, but yeah,
Yeah, it
very
is crazy that no matter whether it's them or WWE, no matter how much programming they have, it's still somehow not enough to utilize or fully spotlight all the talent
I
they have.
yeah, it's weird with WWE. I think it's like two separate problems. Like to me, I watch a WWE show and I'm like, this is fucking slow. And then I'll watch an AEW show and I'm like, this is too fast. Like I need maybe it's
Something in
TNA.
the
Maybe
middle.
maybe TNA's the middle ground for me, where I'm like, okay, this moves at the pace I need. No, but like I feel like they're all trying to cater to these audiences, but I'm like I think there's like a style of wrestling that hasn't been presented yet that would speak to a wider audience maybe. Like we were talking about before, like there's real life dramas that are so captivating and there's a way to kind of bring those in. Like to me, all the greatest moments I've had in wrestling outside of five-star match type things were when that suspension of disbelief was just blown away by something happening. Like
And it's even more powerful when it's someone like you who knows so much about it, you know, all the inner workings of it. And somehow knowing all of that, you still get hooked. You still bite in on that. Oh, no, no, shit, they just crossed the line right there.
Yeah,
This shit
that's where
just
it
got.
is. That's where it happened. And like, I remember, like to me, like it was before I kind of started making, getting involved in it a little bit more, like as a fan type thing. I mean, just casually watching it, that Matt Hardy stuff with Edge and
Oh,
Lita, like knowing a little bit of the backstage thing and then seeing how they played it out on TV. I think that was way more effective than the pipe bomb or the Nexus invasion or any of these sorts of things that they've tried to break the fourth wall with, where it seems like he just fought his way out of the crowd. He starts shouting out ROH. There was just something about it that I was like, I remember just walking out of that room watching it, being like, I gotta look a little bit more into this shit than I've been looking into it.
and I remember at the time when that happened, like I feel for the people, like, and in that case, I'm a fan of all three people. But at that time, I felt like, man, they did Matt Hardy fucking wrong, you know, like, and you know how it is at the time, there was parts of the story that were publicly known, and the shit like someone has the fake phone, or maybe that was Triple H who had like the his wife or girlfriend finds the burner phone, and then there's this whole other relationship thing. And it's always like, you know what, if you don't want to be with someone, like don't be with them. Like to me, it's
Mm.
fucked that Matt Hardy and Lita are this thing and Edge is their fucking friend. Like you could put a fucking gun to my head and try to get me to. I'm not Hulk Hogan. Do you know what I mean? You could put a gun to my head and I'm not gonna fuck any of my friends' fucking wives. You couldn't pay me to fucking do it. It's a line you should never, ever, ever cross. And the fact that these people find a way to justify it or normalize it or whatever, and no knock on them, they've all grown as people, and who knows what their particular scenarios were. But I'm just a big stay true. You know what I mean? Just if it's not for you, get out. But if it's for you, then be honest and be sincere, and don't be like Sunny and have everyone like running a train on you in the back while your husband is having a 4 minute match in the ring. You know what I mean? Just be with someone or don't be with them.
I think it's wrestling, like I say this, and I only mean it half jokingly, but like the sketchiest, most terrifying person you meet in punk and hardcore will be amongst the most normal, upstanding person you'll meet in pro wrestling.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's so weird. Like, and so there's, yeah, good and bad in everyone. And there's some people that are so good and some people that are so bad. But it's hard for me to say. Like, there's certainly evil people and I see them for what they are. But I always feel like there's more, people that just want to see a show and people that just want to perform. And yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's definitely tough. My biggest thing is I just wish, like we said earlier, that more people would just buy the fucking ticket. Like we're in a time now where companies like Ruthless Pro Wrestling announced they're going to be running their last show, and other companies or everyone's having financial difficulties. And it's like, you do the math. Like if they're flying in 10 wrestlers to wrestle and the tickets are $30 and there's 200 people at the venue, do the fucking math. You know what I mean? You got to pay for flights, hotels, the ring, the room, the sound, the camera guys, the stream, whatever. Like wrestling has more costs involved than a hardcore show does in a way, but more people have the potential to come to a hardcore show than to come to a deathmatch wrestling show. Like to me, as great as wrestling is as we know it, I feel like to the average person, if you're like, yo, there's going to be this thing with wrestling, they're just like, no, like
Yeah.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear about it. Like, and that's crazy because I'm sure you've done this too. Anyone I've ever brought to wrestling for their first show, and whether it was an indie, whether it was WWE or whatever, and we're sitting close, all of them are completely blown away. Like they can't even believe what's happening and how it happens and the pacing and the talent and the way the audience the audience knows what to do as far as the catchphrases and whatever. It really is a magical art form. And you said earlier about how where sometimes WWE feels so slow and sometimes AEW feels so fast. I think part of the magic that's missing is like that ECW style, which was we got a slow match, we got a fast
Mhm.
match, we got a blood match, we got a girl dancing on the arena, we have music, but real world music and stuff like that. They were giving you the complete, well rounded presentation. It wasn't just this or just that. it was everything. And that's, I've always believed that that's what a wrestling show is. You know, sometimes someone will point someone out to me and be like, oh, look at this guy, he's so small, or look at this guy, he's so fat as a wrestler. And it's like, well, that's great. For the one super fucking impossibly small guy, he has a spot on the show, as does the fattest fat guy you've ever seen. But they're not going to be the main event per se, but they're part of it. And then you have the muscle guy and then this guy, and then that's the magic. Like you want that poster to me to be a variety show, and you want to deliver that crescendo, like building it up to be the most blowaway show it can be. And you don't have to just do one style, because you know what I'm saying? Like after a while, like, okay, like we've seen this match 6 times in a row now, you know?
Well, I think it's also like it's funny that wrestling is such a TV product and so much of the money is generated for these big companies through television.
Television rights
Yeah,
fees.
television rights fees, because like same with like a hardcore show, and it doesn't matter, or any concert. Like if I showed you an Iron Maiden show on YouTube, or a Psycho Sin show on YouTube, or even like Breakdown in Thompson Square Park, like one of the greatest shows of all time, it would have been a trillion times better, I guarantee, to have been there to see it in person. And as good as wrestling comes across on TV when it's great, in person, it's a completely different thing.
Yeah, completely. And even with the most state of the art production and state of the art cameras and state of the art sounds and all that, even then it can be very difficult to properly capture, because while you might be capturing one aspect of it visually or whatever, there's other aspects that are just being missed, and that's both on the less so on the biggest levels, but it does happen there. But then I feel like that happens more the further down you go, you know?
When you also, because the being in the audience at a wrestling show may be only comparable to like a comedy show where they're doing a lot of crowd work. You're involved in the show, and you will affect the outcome or what they do in the ring based on your reactions, right? Like that's the great part of this art, is they will use your reactions to manipulate what they want you to do. And so like it's almost like I could see virtual reality being something I would want to use to watch
Oh man.
wrestling in, because like you'd want to see what the audience around you is doing. You want to see how they're taking it in, their reactions. Whereas like I don't really see the benefit in watching a movie in virtual reality,
Sure.
or even a sporting event. Like I don't give a fuck what the guy beside me at a baseball game is doing. Like I just want to be part of that crowd. Whereas in
Sure.
wrestling, it's a lot more interactive.
Yeah, 100%. And you're so dead on. Like it is all about those reactions. And I think of all the times that I've been at a show and like you'll see the wrestlers, like, you know, they'll just single out, not in a bad way, but just the way they'll speak to individual people, and whether it's dissing them because they're bad guys or saying something that pops them. You know, one of the greatest things I think that's happened in wrestling, and now it's like a distant memory and it doesn't happen anymore, is like the rise of Kevin Steen.
Mm-hmm.
And when and again, he's on top of the world and doing great, God bless him. But like when he was on the rise and working Gorilla and stuff, the way he would improv and shit talk and mock and fall back and all this, he's doing almost like a live comedy routine while and spoken word while he's having this fucking 5-star match. And I always remember the story, like in wrestling folklore, like Kevin Steen, or now Kevin Owens, ran into like Steve Austin at an airport and was like, you know, hey, do you have any advice for me or whatever? And Steve's like, oh, you talking that shit, man. That's great. You talk that shit. That's great. And that's kind of, I feel like, what got him in the door. And obviously it doesn't work as well in an arena unless he has a microphone on, because a pro wrestling gorilla, if he just starts talking shit to you or his opponent or the ref or whoever, the whole fucking building can hear it. And that to me was just so unique and so compelling. And I had never seen anyone do that before. And I don't think I've really ever seen someone do that since. Like that was exclusively like a Kevin Owens or Kevin Steen thing.
It's funny you said him, because I was just thinking like one of the greatest live experiences I've ever had, entertainment wise, it was Kevin Steen winning the ROH title in Toronto at the Ted Reeves Arena. And I was going to bring it up because like that moment, the way it felt in there, and like I've watched it since, and no diss on the ROH production because they did the best they could, but It's in like some shitty hockey arena on the outskirts of downtown Toronto. But to be in that room and the way that whole room got behind him because it's Canada and it didn't matter if he was the heel was just like there was nothing like that. And just like the way everyone was kind of brought in to that experience, like you see it in concerts, but like then again, like they're not interacting with you, or if they are interacting with you, it's like in a very sort of like I guess macro kind of way. Whereas like
Yeah.
Steen's looking in my eyes at one point, and
Yeah, and
like
he's talking about your shirt or your
yeah,
beard or your whatever.
yeah, or there's just like sort of this acknowledgement of like like I remember booing Shelton Benjamin at that show and him looking right at me and being like, "What?" and just being like, "This is so fucking cool that there's this sort of like type of because you can't do that at a play. You can't do
No.
that at like you can do it at a sporting event, but they're not going to play with you. They're going to fucking storm off or get you ejected. But this is like this is what this show is. Or like
But yeah, it's part of the art.
I
I growing up in New York, I always going to shows as a kid for WWF and stuff like that. The amount of shit that the people in the audience would say to the wrestlers was like mind-boggling, and it was so entertaining in its own right. You know what I mean? Where whoever wrestler was in the ring, and then somebody would just yell out like, "Hey, like, where's that money you owe me?" or whatever it might be. You stuff that gets the reaction or it makes that moment, and then it's hard to explain. But yeah, there's nothing else like that because obviously a movie is canned. There's nothing that's going to interact with you. A play is live, but it's live like line for line. There's no ad libs. There's no improv. Wrestling is at its heart improv and just working with what's there. It's like it's funny that you could opposite sides of the same coin. We've all seen 100 times where like Ric Flair just points out into space and is like, "Sit down, fat boy." But there is no fat boy, and there
yeah.
was no one standing up at that point. That's just him, creative visualization, as Mike from District 9 said in the movie. Like, yo, everything I write is real, but like a lot of it, most of it is fake. But I forgot my point. I lost it with
No,
Mike.
I feel like what you're saying there is spot on, and that's like what I love about wrestling is there is this sort of like playing with the reality of things, and I think that's why I think people go to wrestling for a lot of different reasons, as you know better than I, but there's a segment that goes there because they can yell at the lions.
Yes,
And
100%.
and they know the lion like I remember going to see I saw like a an indie show here years ago, and it was when Monty Brown was still kind of wrestling,
The
and he
alpha male.
the alpha male, and he had played for the Buffalo Bills or the Argonauts, somewhere where Doug Flutie had also played.
Okay.
So we were like, me and my friend were like going, "Where's Doug Flutie?" And he shoots me this look that's like, "I would kill you." And there was like obviously like I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm gonna stop this. But there's like a segment of that fan base that's doing that at every show where they know that like where else could you yell at someone who's 6'5", 300 pounds of muscle and get away with it? Like nowhere.
And it's part of the show, even if, and sometimes, you may have to evacuate. Do you know what I mean? Like they may start coming for you. And if they come for you, my policy is always, you can't get me if I'm not there. I'm not going to sit there and wait.
Yeah. I will like say that there's a moment and you can always feel it where that energy changes and you're like, this person's not playing with me anymore. And I
Like
should
La
definitely,
Parka, for example.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
people try to fuck with La Parka. I don't know why they ever would. And man, he just fucking rains doom on people. And why would anyone ever try La Parka? Why?
I
Hey,
just
I'm
think
gonna pull off this guy's mask. Like,
like
what?
unless you're like a high ranking MMA person, why would you try a wrestler, period? Ever. It's never going to go well. This is someone who gets hurt for entertainment. Like they're going to be able to take so many more hits and abuse than you will be able to dish out and probably have some offense to answer you with too at some point.
And that's the crazy thing too with wrestling and extreme wrestling is like, hey, if you're an MMA fighter, you're going out there to have your fight, and it may turn into a whole slugfest or a kick fest, or it may be a quick choke or whatever it might be. It's going to be whatever it is, and you don't know. But if you're going out for the main event of a death match and you're looking at all the stuff that's around, you're like, all right, well, someone's going to go through all these light bulbs. Someone's going to go through this. Someone's going to fall off the fucking second story. Someone's going to do this. Like, and you're just going to do it all. Like you or your opponent, all this stuff's going to be done to you. And you go into it knowing that you can't like do better and then be like, oh, I was able to stop him from doing this. Like, no, like you're taking all of it. You know what I'm saying? I've seen guys like, go through 10,000 fucking light tubes and then go right to the airport, dude. Literally right to the airport. And I'm always fascinated with that because they're still bleeding. Do you know what I mean? And they'll bandage up or tape up or whatever. But I always think of like, how do you get through TSA? Like when you're just standing at the machine and then suddenly there's like the line of blood, comes out of your shirt and just runs down to your hand, or it's, bleeding through your clothes. And uh, and then you're on the plane. What if you're sitting on the plane next to Masada? You know what I mean? And then Masada's just got all this blood in his hair or running down his neck. But I've never heard once of a wrestler being turned away from a flight or any issue because the fact that they're actively bleeding, which to me, if I was in charge of the plane, I might be like, you got to close up those wounds, buddy.
Yeah, I think it speaks to, because we can definitely think of some wrestlers that have been turned away from planes, not for bleeding, but for other
Right.
reasons. And I think it speaks to the compartmentalizing or the mentality of this type of wrestler, where these guys and Jeff Cannonball, shout out to Jeff Cannonball, going through a lot of health struggles right now. One of the greatest people I've ever met.
Such a nice guy.
But to reconcile what he did to himself and to other people in the ring with the sweetest human being that he is outside of the ring is wild. And I think that's part of the art, right? Like you can't, Masada maybe, but like some guys, you can't be as crazy out of the ring as you are in the ring.
Sure. And the fact that it's so, like I said, like a Jeff Cannonball is a great example because he's so nice, he's so kind, he's so humble and self-deprecating and whatever and funny. But then, when the bell rings and he's out there doing all this insanity, and it's like, wow, like it's just so crazy to flip that switch. And there's, essentially there's like no pad. There's no, it's not like you put on your helmet and your jersey and whatever. Your head is your fucking helmet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's crazy. He's such a great guy, and I wish him well. There's a lot of ways to support Jeff Cannonball, and I hope that everyone does. And of course, if we're speaking of people that need support, please, for the love of God, help out my brother Lou from Sick of It All. There's
Yeah.
also GoFundMe's and other things as Lou is fighting this terrible disease, and we want Lou back. We need Lou's voice. You know what I mean? I want to hear all that. Yeah. Oh, like I need that shit. It's not enough to get it on records, like you said, because I need to be there live. I want to feel the blood, the sweat, but none of the tears, Daddy.
Absolutely. That's a great promo for him. Absolutely. Yeah, Lou, support Jeff. Um,
Even Bulls Mahoney's widow and son have a GoFundMe right now where they've been evicted from their home, and the kid is graduating high school this year and going on to college, and now he doesn't have a fucking place to live. And I can't even imagine, one, to lose your father at a young age, then to navigate the struggles of life and school and everything, and get to the point where you're graduating and going to the next step, and then the rug gets pulled out from under you. You know what I mean? Yeah, I can't even imagine what that's like. And you know how it is when you're in it, you just have to go and fight. You have to do whatever you can to get through and survive. And yeah, my heart is with all those people and and everyone else that's out there that needs help, that needs support. And not everyone is lucky enough to get any help or support. You know what I mean? Like people like Lou and Jeff and everyone else we're talking about have also, put in thousands of hours and connected with so many people and touched so many lives that um you know what I'm saying? There's almost
yeah.
more doors open in a sense of more people that are willing to help and step up and give back. You know what I mean?
There's a community that they're able to tap into. And I think, well, both, obviously, Jeff also has the wrestling community, but like both of them are kind of coming from hardcore and sort of this thing that, yeah, people contribute, people put on benefit shows. Like to see Piss Jeans do a benefit show, or Interspecies Wrestling, or all these amazing companies along the East Coast of the United States, and people that gave this pass charity pass that allowed you to go to all the wrestling shows for free to benefit Jeff and all this sort of stuff. Like you get to see why these things are so great because these are like churches would be for people in different areas. Like we are mutual aid kind of groups that are.
Yeah, 100%. And it's great that they can come to the community for help. But, as always, I always just want people to support more, like just
Yeah.
to do whatever they can, because you know how it is. If it was you or me in that situation, or the people listening to this, and they felt that way and they were dealing with those obstacles and challenges, and even if someone doesn't have money to give, sharing the link to the GoFundMe, go live on your Instagram or whatever and talk about it for 5 minutes. Like literally anything helps. Anything that'll put an eye on it or whatever helps. And it reminds me, the first time I ever met Jeff Cannonball, I was booking the wrestling at the Gathering of the Juggalos, and I was trying to put a card together of like wrestlers from the New Jersey area, and we were having like a death match centric event as part of it. So I was like looking, just looking into everything, and I'm like, all right, Matt Tremont, Jimmy Lloyd, he had just won Tournament of Death at that time, and then I look more, and it's like Jeff Cannonball, and then there's this other wrestler who I won't name, but there was a bunch of people that was, all right, that's an incredible car, to get all these guys in one car to come down and wrestle. And then as I got closer, Matt Tremont had some concerns, or he wanted to just travel, or for logistics or whatever it was. Him and his wife were going to travel separately in their own car and whatever. So I'm like, whatever you want to do. And then, but I still have this car with Jeff Cannonball, the other wrestler, and whatever. And I always remember, and I don't know Jeff at all, and I didn't even speak to him to book him. I just messaged him or whatever. And I can't remember what band shirt he had on, but I'm in the, it's the Gathering of the Juggalos. So like, there's not a lot of people with hardcore or, metal shirts or whatever. Maybe it was Bold, whatever it was. It was like a fucking hardcore shirt. And I know who he is. So he comes up and introduces himself. And I'm like, oh, you're into hardcore music? He's, oh yeah, fuck yeah, blah, blah, blah. And to me, honestly, Jeff was almost like an add-on. He was a supporting player in that carload I was building. And then Jeff's like, oh yeah, by the way, the other guy said he's not coming. Now, meanwhile, we're standing in the backstage in Ohio, and Jeff's telling me this, and it's not Jeff's fault, but I was so mad that one of the people I try to build the car around, that's not Matt Tremont or Jimmy Lloyd or people like that, didn't bother to fucking say anything, and then just tell a guy to relay a message at the end of a 10-hour car ride. But the point of all this was that I had an idea for a match, and the reason I found Jeff was I was familiar with his wife's wrestling, Tara Calloway, and I knew they were, married not in the at that time, not in the legal sense, but they were married. So I was always trying to think of what could be done that's never been done or whatever. And I came up with a match called Till Death Match Do Us Part, or Domestic Death Match, or whatever. Husband versus wife, main fucking event. And then I got a lot of household items that wouldn't normally be in a death match, but because it's domestic and it's husband and wife, there's all kinds of plates and like just different things that wouldn't normally be in the match. And him and Tara went out there and fucking tore it down. And Jeff was so great to work with. They were both really into the idea of this. And I love, anytime you could do something new or different, or just put a different coat of paint on the same thing. And in doing so, you could spotlight some really good and talented people. And they love the experience, coming down and being there for the whole weekend and whatever. But I always remember that domestic or Till Death Match Do Us Part, whatever. Just a husband, even to this day, no one's ever done it since. A husband and wife death match. Why not?
That's amazing. Yeah,
I think it's on you. I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube. Like it's like fan footage or whatever, but I'm pretty sure it's on there.
Yeah, Jeff, when he was on the show the first time, talked about meeting you at the Gathering. I think it was before.
Yeah, he was just so great. He made such a good impression on me, and the fact that he showed up, because when the other guy decided he wasn't going, that fucked up Jeff's ride situation and all that. And Jeff still showed up with his wife, and even better was that he didn't call me, because then how do I get there? Like, how can I get a car in New Jersey? Like, he's just like, I got this booking, I got to be there. You know what I mean? And you got to love people that see it through. So I'm glad he had that great experience. And same thing with him. Like when his soda show started to blow up, I thought that was going to be like a really big thing, like bigger than it was. Like it was going to just keep going and going, and then suddenly he'd have his own, slot on the soda fountain at Taco Bell or whatever. You know what I mean? Like his soda of the month or whatever. But that to me is again that something out of nothing mantra. Like he's sitting around, he likes soda. Everyone has a phone. You just do like 10 or 15 seconds soda reviews. Because how much insight can you offer? You know what I mean? Like, oh, bubbly, or oh, like, because there's always all those horrible sodas you see on the shelf that like you're always like that Roddy Piper bubble gum soda. That's like, look, I love Roddy Piper more than anybody. Bubblegum's okay, but the idea of bubblegum soda just sounds fucking disgusting. Like, I don't want that.
I only ever had the Hubba Bubble one. I don't think I ever had the Roddy Piper
Oh
one though.
man, I didn't know Hubba Bubba had one.
It wasn't great, like you're saying.
Yeah,
Like
because it's bubblegum flavor. It's just like pizza. Pizza is one of the greatest tastes in the world, but then you're like, oh, these are pizza potato chips. Like, no, they're not. Not at all.
I fuck with a pizza potato chip. They're
But it's
actually
not the same. It's the
no.
same thing. Like I always say, in a world of nachos, why do Doritos exist? Like we don't live in outer space or something, and it's like, oh, there's been cheese in space since 1,000 years. You know what I mean? Like if I had a choice of having melted cheese and sour cream and stuff on chips, or just a bunch of chemicals in powder, granulated powder form, I would choose the nachos every time. And if it was, hey, you could have nachos or Doritos, but there's no nachos available, I'll just wait till nachos are available. I'm not even going to sully myself with Doritos.
See, you're like the MVP of fucking corn chips over there.
I'm
I'm
drawing a
not.
line. It's
Yeah, see,
beneath me.
I'm not. I want my Iron Maiden in the stadium, and I want my Psycho Sin in a New Jersey basement of potato chips. Like sometimes I want a Dorito. I can't eat any of it anymore because I don't eat dairy anymore. But I would fuck a Dorito up if like Dorito was like, hey, we got Cool Ranch vegan Doritos now. You better believe I'm eating a whole bag
You'd
by
be all in.
myself. Oh my god.
But you would prefer that over actual not vegan nachos,
Like it just depends the
warm and
mood.
melty, and.
It depends the mood. Like I love. Don't get me wrong. I fuck with nachos with the melted cheese and the guacamole and everything. But like sometimes you're like, I just want a dirty. Like I want to wig out at Denko's with some Coke and Doritos. You know?
Well, it's similar. I draw a similar parallel to YooHoo. In a world of chocolate milk, why would you buy YooHoo?
I
And
agree
what
with
the
that.
fuck? There's an old joke I used to tell when I was a kid that I lifted from somewhere, but it was like, oh, there was a giant YooHoo spill on the highway, like the truck spilled over, and no one knew what to do because no one knows what the fuck YooHoo is. He's like, what is it? It's shelf stable and it's like chocolate milk, but it doesn't taste. It has that weird.
It's like it's like the shitty American version of all those crazy Belgian chocolate milks that you get
Oh
when you're
man,
on tour in Europe.
those are great though,
Those are so good. And but it's like
but they're
that's
also chocolate milk.
yeah. There's also chocolate milk too. I like
There's chocolate milk in the container. Again, I don't know what YooHoo is.
yeah like a mistake, like you're saying, like something that I don't necessarily want to I want to share in a cup of at any point. I'm not a. Does it have a mix? Is there like an alcoholic mix for you out there?
Ooh, there should be, but I've never heard of it. There's like
Kahlua,
mudslides and shit like that, but even they have a better
chocolate milk
base
thing.
chocolate
Yeah,
milky feeling. Even though it's a shelf stable chemical concoction of sugar, but somehow it's still like, oh, this tastes good.
yeah. It's not YooHoo. They just like
Yeah.
is YooHoo carbonated too?
I don't think so. And I always remember that the strawberry yoo-hoo was less popular, but it definitely tasted way better.
We there was this like we have this. I think it's a nationwide grocery store chain up here, and they used to have this like store brand called President's Choice, and eventually the store brand became like super fucking popular, and they couldn't lose. They were putting out all these products, and people loved them, and they did a chocolate soda, like a chocolate flavored cola,
Mm.
black cherry cola, and it was the
Oh,
most disgusting chocolate black cherry cola.
too
I could.
much.
It was so gross, and I think it sunk the company.
Oh
I
my
remember.
god! It was like the ET on Atari 2600
Yes,
of
exactly.
Canadian soda.
I remember the news, like a news broadcaster. He was like, "Dude, there's huge report on this company and how successful they are." And he's like, Dave Thomas was his name, I think, too, like the Wendy's guy. And he's like, "And here's our new chocolate cherry blah blah soda." And the newscaster drank it and was like, "That's disgusting. That is horrible."
Chocolate is one of those things. It's perfect. Like it's impossible to fuck up. It already exists in the perfect form, just chocolate. And then they can make it liquid chocolate. They could melt it. It can be frozen. You could like dip frozen things into a thin layer of it. There's so many things you can do, but none of them involve that. Like it should never be that.
Yes, I 100% agree. Um, this came up on the podcast recently with Justice, and it's now led to some debate. Um, when do you remember first seeing spin kicking showing up in New York hardcore?
I know the very first time I ever saw a spin kick. I know the exact show, and I went to see, and I was thinking about this the other day. I went to see MOD, Method of Destruction, on the Gross Misconduct tour. Gross Misconduct, I think, is a criminally underrated album. It's fucking epic, especially True Colors, but the whole thing is brilliant. Way more brilliant than, you know what I'm saying, say maybe other MOD stuff. But
Yeah.
it was MOD, and then the other two bands, I didn't even know who they were at that time. It was Biohazard and Sheer Terror. And this is an unsigned Biohazard, you know what I mean? And I went to the show in Long Island at Sundance, and I'm like, okay, like it's one of the first shows I ever went to. So I'm like, all right, this is interesting. And there's all these like crazy people and everyone's going nuts. And there's this guy right in front of me, and he looks like pretty dangerous, you know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, I just note that he's there. All right. And then this person, is walking towards both of us, and they bump into him, and they don't say anything or whatever, and then they just turn their back to him and are looking at the show or whatever. And I'm like, like I could feel like this ominous vibe. And I'm thinking, well, why did that person do that? They're like a dick. They just walked up and kind of bumped into this dude and didn't say anything. And while I'm just watching that and processing it, the dude who's standing in front of me just does a perfect spin kick and, catches the guy like, so it's coming all the way around and just kicks the guy right in his eye from behind. The dude's just unconscious on the floor right out of just right out of the frame. And I was like, man, what a lesson I just fucking learned. Because then when I was going to the bar or whatever, and then I bump into someone, I'm like, oh, my bad. Excuse me. And they're like, it's all good. But just watching that dude get spin kicked in his fucking head at one of my first shows, it taught me like a super lesson of like, you better be respectful. And I've never had an issue with anyone. Like I've bumped into people, I've knocked people's drinks down, but I always have a policy. If I knock your drink down, or even if you think I knock your drink down or I knock part of your drink down, before it's fully hit the ground, I am like, I'm sorry, what was that? And I'm like, I'm getting you a new one right now because it's not even worth the issue. And it's like, you bought a drink, now you don't have a drink. Maybe it's your fault, maybe it's my fault, maybe it's both. But I'd like to just make it right. And let's just leave it peacefully. And then sometimes the person you do that for is the same person that might save you from some other fucking crazy people or whatever. Like people remember, but it's always about respect. You know what I mean? Just respecting other people. So that's when I first saw a spin kick, and it wasn't done in dancing. It was just done as a karate kick to brutally kick someone in the orbital bone and knock them unconscious for being disrespectful.
Was it? Did it start showing up in the mosh pit when Marauder starts coming around? Because I heard Saab as Justice said that in his research is the first one, the
Really?
originator of the spin kick.
It's amazing. Oops, sorry. I've lost both buds now. Hold on, I'll do a double
No,
in.
bro. Yeah.
The thing that amazes me most about Marauder now is how they've gone so far. Like they were Marauder at the time, and that was great, but they're so much more influential now than they were at the time. And I remember the first time it dawned on me how big they were was years ago before AEW and all that, and even before God's Hate. I had done an interview with Brody King on the Kevin Gill show, and I'm like, "So Brody, what's up? Like, what bands you listening to? Whatever." And he's like, "I'm really into Troy Core." I'm like, "What'd you say?" He's like, "Troy Core." And I'm like, "I don't know what that is." He's like, "Come on, KG, you're from New York, whatever." I'm like, "I have no idea. What are you talking about? Troy Core?" And he's like, "Oh, like Troy, New York." And I forget what year, but he's like, "Oh, in Troy, New York, in this year, there was like this sound, and that's what I'm fucking into." And he mentioned Marauder as being part of that. And that just that, it still blows my mind to this day. Like Marauder to me was always like a Brooklyn band, but I knew about this stuff going shows in Troy, but I never, you know what I'm saying? Let's just be real. They obviously weren't as big or crazy, in my opinion, as the shows that were happening in and around New York and Brooklyn and all that. But there was obviously such a magic there, and I guess it was captured on video or soundboards or whatever. And then it goes 3,000 miles away to Brody King, and he's not the only one that has this influence. And then there's this whole Marauder thing going on. You know what I mean? Like in a good way. But I don't know candidly about if I just remember, yeah, Saab just being one of those people that was just like a, so to say, I don't mean this in a derogatory way, just a crazy person, like a crazy, dangerous person. So to me, the nobody, I would just be like, oh, hey, Saab, how are you? Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't think he ever knew who I was, ever, any of the times I said hello to him. But I just felt like that's a cool way to, like, I'm just here to see music or whatever. And if saying hello and being respectful to everyone makes it so that I'm not the person being stuffed in the dumpster at the end of the night, I'm glad to do it.
Yeah, because like they had a mystique right away. Like obviously it's grown, but like Andy from Every Time I Die had a Marauder tattoo. He had no tattoos then.
What?
He just had a Marauder arm piece
I
up
didn't
his
know that
sleeve.
about Andy.
This is back when he roadied for Buried Alive and
Wow.
like Vogel's band.
And this is minus era Marauder, do you feel like, or had it moved to George or Jorge?
I think it must have been Master Killer
Okay, yeah.
kind of time, right? Like it's been
But that
90.
started, that was with Minus, I think I think Minus, maybe they were doing the songs live with Minus, and then the
Yeah.
album had George on it, something like that. I
I think
forget.
it's something like that. And they also had like in that Creepy Crawl live record, they had
Yeah.
like all those like we didn't last time we played her like three kids got broken legs. Like we're not gonna stop till the bleeding starts, you dig? And then like it's like the hardest fucking calls
Wow. I'm
and
gonna go
stuff.
back and hear that. Yeah, to me, they were just as a great band, but like, yeah, like a great band, like many hardcore bands, a great band made of, at least what seems like on the surface, made up of highly dangerous and deadly people. And it's like, respect them. And if you're into it, support it and just hope it doesn't get, it doesn't get turned on you.
What's so interesting with New York hardcore, and like this really comes across in with a guitar player from District 9 in that New York hardcore documentary when they're talking to like when was the first time you saw someone get murdered? He's like, I was 8. And then it's just like the trauma these guys are living with. This isn't suburban hardcore, which I think is like the
No,
critique a lot of times of this kind of music. It's like this is like lived traumatic shit that these people were coming out of, and it's not like they were going to therapy before they started playing in these
no.
bands.
The
So
music
this
was the therapy. The scene was the therapy. The life that Lord Isaac, or Danny Diablo, as he's known now, the life that he lived, and the pain and the experiences and all that was happening in Queens, in the Bronx. You have District 9, but yeah, all these people, everyone was traumatized in some way. You know what I mean? And this is like that was our healing, or that was our place where we were all accepted. We all had a home. We all had a place to belong. You know what I mean? And a place to escape and build ourselves up and get your confidence. And you know what I mean? Like, I just think about that because I started going to those shows. I got pretty much everything I've ever gotten to do in life happened because I started going to hardcore shows. Do you know what I mean? And it taught me how to look at the world. It showed me how I could be successful. It showed me a myriad of business models and things that you could do, because there's all these like, oh, what about merchandise? What about a zine? What about, the record itself and the production and the packaging and all that stuff? And all that stuff is literally got me the job in video games, and the job in video games got me the jobs in wrestling. But it all comes back to that hardcore reality and those hardcore experiences and what I learned from those songs and at those shows, and the brotherhood. I was the biggest Murphy's Law fan ever, and I was a huge Beastie Boys fan too. But like, so I that's part of the reason when I was like dissing Earth Crisis, excuse me, because the bands I liked were throwing beer on everybody and they were partying and they were having that outlet. You know what I mean? But it was just, um, yeah, like just seeing that stuff, man, it really opened up every possibility and every door, and it just taught you about life and how to live it. And people like Jimmy. So I'm a big fan of Murphy's Law. And then I would keep seeing, Jimmy, I'm like a strange looking individual, and Jimmy would notice me being at the shows, And then he'd notice at that time they were like banned at CB's or whatever. So anytime Murphy's Law played within like 120 or whatever number of miles, I would just go. So anywhere in New Jersey, anywhere in Connecticut, Massachusetts, wherever Murphy's Law is playing, like I'm there. And then after I did that a few times, I always remember I went to the bar. I was at the bar in the venue right after the show, and I'm like waiting to order my drink. And Jimmy, I guess there was no more beer backstage or whatever. So now Jimmy pushes his way through and is right next to me at the bar. And I'm like, Jimmy, what's up? And he's like, what's up, man? And I'm like, bro, I came here from fucking Queens today to fucking party with you guys. He's like, yeah, bullshit. You came here from Queens? And I just show him my driver's license. And he's like, holy shit. And then I forget how it even. Oh, I remember I was working on a record with this band called Stick Figure, not the famous jam band Stick Figure of today or whatever.
No,
and
the band that you sang in.
Yeah.
Cage,
And
the original Cage before
yes,
other Cage.
the original Cage and the original Stick Figure. I feel like I should put the Stick Figure EP up on Spotify and all that shit just to get all the accidental listens from that. I forget who has that current Stick Figure, but I know they're popular in there.
Like Slipknot, the other, like the Revelation Slipknot. You know, like that's got to be one of the highest selling Revelation records ever, just because so many
Confusion.
new metal kids made the mistake of buying that one. What a great, fortunate mistake for them to make, because I think that Slipknot 7-inch destroys anything the other Slipknot ever did.
Like that first Slipknot record is pretty hard, you know what I mean? But then it kind of gets, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Obviously,
like I can see why people like it. It's just, once again, not for me type thing. Whereas Connecticut Slipknot, that's 100% for me.
yeah, Revelation was so influential, and even Discord, like it's amazing because like on one hand they're a business and they're putting out records that people want to hear, and the bands benefit from that and tour. But what they're also doing is literally just low key demonstrating, like, well, who the fuck am I? And I'm doing this. So what are you doing? And why aren't you doing something? And I think that's something the deathmatch scene could use, because outside of everybody wanting to be a commentator or everyone is a photographer, like there's other really important things that are part of wrestling that those spots are currently unfilled. Like aim for the spot that's not filled and bring something new to the table, because that's how you raise the bar. But to finish that Jimmy story real quick was, so we hit it off at that bar. And then, back then I used to always write letters to anyone I was into. Like if it was, I'd write letters to Mike Muir from Suicidal Tendencies. I write letters to AJ Novello from Leeway. So I wrote a letter to Jimmy, because everyone had a P.O. box or a street address on their record. And I wrote a letter to Jimmy and I said that I'm recording the Stick Figure debut record. I was like, and I hope you don't mind, but we have a song that we sampled you in. We sampled Jimmy's voice. And I'm like, I think it would be much cooler to have you come to the studio, to Don Fury's Demo Studios, and lay it down with us. It'll take you 5 minutes. But either way, is it cool if we sample you, and alternate, can you come to the studio? So I just mailed this letter like in mid to late November, because the only date we could get at Don Fury's, it was like December 26th or some weird, like after Christmas. And I always remember that, oh no, maybe it was January 2nd, whatever it was right after a pivotal holiday in that Christmas window. And oh yeah, it had to be in January, because so I sent the letter and I didn't hear back in that short time frame. And I always remember it was New Year's Eve and I was sitting at home and the phone rings, and there's no caller ID, there's no cell phone, there's just a phone in the wall. I'm like, hello? And you're like, hey, Gil, it's Jimmy from Murphy's Law. I'm like, what? Like, Jimmy, what's going on? Hey, I just got back from the airport. I just got back from Europe. And I got this letter from you. Did we miss? Is it too late? Did I miss the studio? I'm like, no, it's like the day after tomorrow or whatever. Maybe it's January 2nd, whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's like Saturday or whatever. He's like, all right, yeah, I'll be there. That sounds great. Then he's like, what are you doing tonight? And I'm like, and it was New Year's Eve. He's like, what are you doing tonight?
Which is their anniversary of them forming, right? Their first show ever was on New Year's
That was their
Eve.
first show ever. And he's like, tonight Gua's playing under a fake name at CB's. Wrong. The Ultimate Gua tribute. He's like, you want to come down? And I'm like, oh yeah, like I got my girl with me. Oh yeah, just bring her. Just when you get to CB's, just tell them you're here with Jimmy, and they'll let you in. And So then we walk up to CB's and they're like, that'll be $20 or whatever it was. And I'm like, I'm here with Jimmy. And they're just like, go ahead. And then me and my girl got to watch Guar play without their makeup. And they opened with Ham on the Bone, which is like my favorite Guar song ever. And what an experience. And from that, I've gotten to be friends with Jimmy to this day. You know, he's a hero. And then that's the difference I feel like with hardcore. That sums it up right there. I'm a fan of your band. I buy tickets to see your band. I send you a fan letter and you call me back to collaborate with me in the studio. And you invite me to CBGBs to hang out and put me on the fucking guest list to be down with this. And then after that, Jimmy started being like, oh, hey, we're going to go do Virginia Beach and Washington, D.C. Do you want to come with us? So then I could just ride in the van with them and go to these shows. And it's like, and you know, like my mom would be like, I don't understand. Like, what are you doing? And it's like, well, how could I not? Jimmy invited me to go to Virginia Beach for and this is like the lineup was Jimmy, Todd Youth, Chuck, and there was a different drummer. I feel like Mike McDermott. I'm not sure if he was the drummer at that time, but Chuck,
A good lineup.
yeah, Chuck Valley and Todd Youth, man, holy fucking shit. And to
Yeah.
be in a van with those guys, you know, and I'm trying to be quiet and because you know I know because why am I even there? Why did you even invite me in the best way possible? But I'll never forget that, and nowhere else would that happen.
Not
It's
wrestling.
unheard of. But Jimmy doing that opened up. I remember they were recording the Good for Now EP, and they did it with Daniel Ray, the famous Ramones producer. And I was hanging with Jimmy quite a bit at that time. And they said, "Hey, Kevin Gill, we're going to be at the studio Friday. You want to come by?" And so then I'm sitting there in the recording studio, and me and Daniel Ray hit it off. And at that point, I'm just about production and how it all works and whatever. And I'm just there. I'm sitting in the studio. I'm watching you record the records. I'm backstage with you. I'm in the van with you, and I'm not paying you for this privilege. You're not making me work, which I would have been glad to do. You're just giving me this experience. You're just taking me under your wing, and you're being a friend to me. And that friendship gave me so much confidence and just kind of put me on the map just to be a person because now I'm like, oh, there's nobody's here, but he's friends with Jimmy. Do you know what I mean? And that just suddenly, as you know, it's like a carte blanche. In the same way I could walk into CBGB's, if you're with Jimmy, you know, shit's good. And I'd see what would happen when people would try to start trouble with Jimmy or Jimmy's friends. I remember one time the bouncers at Asbury Park attacked Russ Igley from Underdog after the show. And we're all there together. The show's over. Everything's fine. It's just the band and like one or two of their friends. And like it's where like the show's over and they're like, oh, let's have a beer. They're just standing there just having a beer. Like, and the bouncers just come over like, everybody get the like just screaming at the band members. And it's like the show hasn't even been over for like 2 minutes. And it was weird because they had this the venue tried to have like a very loosely themed, like Crucial Barbecue vibe to the show, which that meant they had these little hot dog things. It was almost like a little hot dog cart on the street, but super mini. And it would be hot dogs and the little relish cup and all this stuff. And I guess like self-serve. So I always remember I'm standing there and these bouncers are starting to get crazy and they're big and everything. But I'm like, Jimmy's God. You know what I mean? I'm just waiting to see can I have his back? I don't care if these bouncers are going to kill me. I'll hit them before they can get Jimmy. And one of the bouncers just came over and punched Russ from Underdog. And he's not someone you want to fuck with at all. And he just punched him right in the face. And Russ, you know, didn't even sell it at all. And I always remember Russ just goes, Jimmy, like the bat signals, you know what I mean? And then Jimmy and everybody just come out and they start beating up the fucking bouncers. And Jimmy's standing like right next to me. And then I don't know if one of the bouncers did it or whatever, but somebody threw one of these hot dog, these mini, you know, it's like the size of bigger than like a toaster size hot dog part. Someone throws the part, so like a sky hook. So the thing's flying overhead. As God's my witness, as the thing goes overhead, like the relish part, like drops on Jimmy's bald head, and now he has like a green relish hairdo on top of his head after they beat up the bouncers and chased the bouncers down the street from the fucking venue. And then he got the fucking relish hairdo, and I'm like, these guys are the coolest fucking guys ever. And why the fuck would the venue try to fucking? Why did you book them and give them a guarantee and do all the shit, but then you're gonna let your security try to disrespect them to their core essence, and you literally got beaten down in your own club and chased down the fucking road in Asbury Park, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of times, and I think it's pre-internet. Obviously, is a lot of it where you're like, why did you book this band if you didn't know what was going to happen?
And the show's over. Like whatever the worst thing that happened was, it's over. The fans are gone. The show is over.
Yeah, yeah. Like there's like a weird intensity at that point. Like I think all of us have been thrown out of a venue by angry security guards. It's like, wait, we're coworkers, dude. Like we're all in this together.
There was something in the water in Asbury Park or whatever. Because I remember another time I went to Asbury Park and I rode with the Black Train Jack guys. I was a big fan of them and great, great guys, great talents. And I rode with them to the show in the van. There's no other roadie. It's just them and me. Maybe there was one other person, but it's a small thing. It's not like there's 100 of us. So Black Train Jack is about to go on. So I just go like behind the bass cabinet or whatever. And I'm just standing there out of the way and ready to watch the show. And I watched the show, like song one, song two, song three, whatever. And then all of a sudden, like halfway through the show, just some bouncer comes over and is screaming at me to get the fuck off the stage. And it's like, meanwhile, I've been here the entire time. The band has no issue with it. There's no issue. Just fuck off. You know what I mean? So the bouncer comes over and is screaming all the shit at me. And whatever I told him, like, go fuck yourself or whatever. So then, he could easily beat me up. So he's all trying to puff up on me. And then the band noticed. And then the band like stops and is like, hey. And they just, cut a promo on the fucking bouncer. And they're like, if you fucking fight him, you can fight all of us. And then the crowd starts like frothing because the locals, they obviously know what shitheads these bouncers are. But we punked out the bouncers. It didn't come to blows or whatever, but the band checked them for their reckless aggression and whatever. And again, if I'm some drunk guy running off across the stage and knocking over pedals and amps and whatever, that's one thing. If I'm with the band standing behind the fucking cabinet and I've been there for 35 minutes already, just go fuck yourself, man.
Yeah, it feels like also that period of like where post Nirvana moshing is now, fans getting on stage, like all these lines are kind of being crossed in a mainstream kind of way. I think it took like a good 30 years for bouncers at shows to realize like
to get the memo. Wait,
yeah,
they're not fighting each other. That this is how they dance or whatever. They're just
like
going crazy.
the idea of like throwing someone out for stage diving at some of these shows where there's like
Oh,
12,000 stage divers now. It's like, good luck.
yeah, it's wild how that works. And sometimes you'll still see it. Like I went to that CBGB's Fest, which I thought was great a few months ago. And there was the stage where Grill Biscuits and Murphy's Law and them played. It had this weird, like concrete walls kind of around the stage. I don't know if they were there to prevent people from stage dive or whatever it was. But Grill Biscuits were trying to get everybody to just jump off the barricade, these concrete walls. And you could see Civ like, oh, he's working his way over and he's like singing up on this concrete embankment. And then like security starts moving closer to him, like, and he's like, hey guys, just leave me alone. Like I'm just singing over here. There's nothing to, and he's trying to get the crowd to treat this concrete embankment like it's a secondary stage without a barricade. And if he's up there singing, people will start diving and whatever. So the security is getting closer to him either because they could sense that or they're just trying to keep their eye on him. So he's like trying to low key get them to just give him enough space to let everyone go more crazy. But I want to say that too. I know a lot of people diss like CBGB's Fest and whatever, like, oh, fuck this and whatever. Dude, it was fucking amazing. Do you know what I mean? I went for Murphy's Law and Grill Biscuits and everything else was gravy. I got to see the Lambrini girls. I got to see Jack White. Who else? Oh, there's someone else major I'm forgetting.
Iggy Pop played, right?
Iggy Pop.
Yeah.
I got to see all these fucking bands play, all in the spirit of punk rock and CBs and hardcore. And it was one of those shows, like the perfect show, because I guess there was enough people being like, oh, fuck that, it's fake. And then people that don't know what CBs is, so that somehow everyone there was completely cool. There wasn't one you know, did you go to a festival and it's like, oh, it's my first music show and I've had beer now. Like everyone was as cool as fuck. Everyone went crazy, but in a way. So I don't know. Shout out to them for doing that. I think it's cool they did it. They probably lost, even though it was very well attended. I'd imagine they lost their fucking ass doing it. Just based, I mean, obviously, what does Jack White cost and Iggy Pop? But the fact that they did that and the fact that CBs could live for another day, even if it's one day, and to have those reproductions of the bathroom and to have Hilly's desk and all that stuff out there. I just thought that was cool culturally that they did that. And then, you know, some people want to complain, well, why is this person playing? Well, because the show has to fucking appeal to a lot of people. That's why. Murphy's Law and Gorilla Biscuits to me brought that hardcore to it. If you added 98 bands like them, it wouldn't draw any other, like you have it covered. You know what I'm saying? Hardcore math, you know?
I'm sure the White Stripes probably played CBs too, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, and probably Iggy would have gotten up there at some point on that stage.
I sometimes get caught up, like when I see people write something incredibly stupid on the internet, like I feel compelled to address it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I saw so many people be like, oh, it's CBGB's Fest. And oh, why in the world would Jack White be playing? And I'm like, look, I'm not even a fan of Jack White, but why would he be playing? Because he's like one of the hottest drawing artists there is. He's beloved. He's brilliant as a player. And he played at fucking CB. So what do you mean? Why wouldn't he be playing? He brings a whole other audience and a whole other thing to the event. And it goes back, like we said, with wrestling. If every band was Gorilla Biscuits, it would still be very good, but it wouldn't be nearly as good as when you have the Lambrini Girls and Murphy's Law and Jack White and Iggy Pop and other people I'm forgetting. Oh, Scowl. Like I got to meet the people from Scowl, and I thought it was the coolest fucking thing ever because they were just out watching the other fucking bands.
Yeah,
and
cool people.
I was with someone that's like a well-known scene person from California, and he already knew them. So they saw him in the crowd and then came over to talk to me and him and introduce themselves and everything. And then and then they're like, oh, don't forget, like they're telling me and my girl and him, like, oh, don't forget we go on at 3:30 or whatever. You know, like, you know, like so humble of like, oh, the way a band that's not known would be like, hey, don't forget everybody 120 on the main stage or whatever. But yeah, then they went out there and they fucking destroyed it. The one thing I noticed is I think the singer might have had a wig on when she was out in the audience because they were just walking around freely. And when I met her, she didn't have this amazing green hair. And then a few minutes later, she's on stage with this amazing green hair and she's thrashing around and the hair doesn't come off. So I'm like, all right, the green hair is the real hair. And I think she might have had like a little
disguise.
Yeah, and I get it, you know what I'm saying? But again, the fact that the entire band as a band was walking around and watching all the other bands play, like that's as real as it fucking gets. It's so easy to stay in your dressing room. It's so easy to stay behind the barricade and eat your cheese tray and drink your White Claws or whatever it is you drink. And it takes a lot of heart to come out from behind that curtain and just be who you always were, the person that loves music and the person that likes to see bands.
What they should have done for CBGB's Fest is only book the bands from that first CBGB's compilation.
Oh, like
it's like
what, Ed Gein's TV or whatever.
Yeah, like Tough
Ed
Darts.
Gein's car. Sorry,
Tough Darts is on it. Like the band that like no one like. People are like, who? These guys? Like Ism. I don't think Ism's on that. Maybe it's pretty early.
It's funny. I have like pieces of stage banter like burned into my head forever. I don't remember what band. Oh, it's Roger says it like yo. This song goes out to all the isms that are destroying society today. You know, racism. But I love it. Like, it's so, because when you just say it like the isms, you're like, what the fuck is that? But when you look at like that, like, you know, and like, it's crazy. I know all the stage banter from that Agnostic Front Last Warning or Last Warning, Final Warning, whatever, the CB show, you know. What's up? It's our last show. It's got to be crazy more than any other. So I can keep that memory. This show is for abandoned children with AIDS and other terminal disease. Where I'm like, wow, this is like a really narrow audience of beneficiaries. Like, so if you're God bless them all, but if you're a child with AIDS and another terminal disease,
they're there.
You could be on the receiving end of this AF benefit.
Yeah, I
And no
feel like
disrespect to them, but for me, all
no.
that stuff is it's just so it's so burned in my brain. Like, and then during one of the last solos, he's just like, on your way out, if you wish to leave any additional proceeds, Stigma. It's just so fucking great.
I think every band has a Vinny and a Roger. Like that's like
Yes.
you have to have a Vinny and a Roger in every band to make it work. Like that's a Mick and Keith relationship right there too.
Yes. Spike and Kurt from DRI.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Eddie and AJ from Leeway.
you need like the wild one, and you need like normally it's the lead singer that's the wilder one, but I think Vinny might give Roger a run for his money at times.
Yeah, and then Roger seems almost slightly more sedated, so to speak,
Yes.
now, where Vinny is still unadulterated, full Vinny. And the fact that I've got to now work I got to. Vinny would always tell me whenever I'd see him, like, I want to do stuff with wrestling. And I'd always be like, I'd work with different companies, and I'd be like, they don't understand what Stigma is, or they're not hardcore people, so like, I don't want to sell him upstream, so to speak, where like I have to convince you to have Vinny on your show. Like I want someone who understands who Vinny is, and I always remember. So he'd always ask me, and I'd always be thinking like, well, who could do it? And what I posted a picture of me and Vinny on Instagram, and the next day, Bull James, who's part of Outlaw Wrestling in New York, he hit me up and he's like, he's a good friend of mine and a great guy, and he's like, oh, you think Vinny would ever want to do something with wrestling? And it's like, oh no, I don't think he does. I know that he fucking does. And he's like, can you ask him if he's available on this date or whatever, and what's a good rate and whatever. So I became like Vinny's booker, you know what I mean? So I called up Vinny, and he's fucking, not only is Vinny thrilled, he already has ideas, fully fleshed out ideas, more than one, and he's running me through all of them on the phone. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, yeah, it's just so fucking amazing. He was so into it. And then I was out in LA, and I think we were doing King of the Death Match for Seven, and Vinny was in town doing a book signing with Roger. So I reached out and I invited all of them, you know what I mean? But Vinny is the one who came. And then since he was there, Vinny jumped on commentary in LA, and Tony Foresta from Municipal Waste was like the guest host of the show. So then the commentary table for like the second half of the show was me, Tony Foresta, and Vinny Stigma calling deathmatch fucking wrestling. And I'm like, what a unique subset of a subgenre. It's just like wild. Like that even happened. And I love that Vinny, so colorful, so creative, so talented, so beloved, like an icon, a legend, a godfather of hardcore. And he loves punk rock, he loves hardcore, but man, does that motherfucker love wrestling,
Oh
man.
yeah.
And the boys, every wrestler on the show, and people, it always surprises me how many people involved in wrestling come from some kind of a hardcore music background. And you could tell anyone who's just like, Vinny Stigma is here. Like, if you know, then you know. So you're cool with me. You know what I mean? But that, I'll never forget that, man, being able to travel a little bit with Vinny and do these shows. And he's such a pleasure. You know what I mean? Like, he's literally just such a pleasure. He's got so much great energy, and just a legend. And if anyone's never seen that movie, The Godfathers of Hardcore, about Vinny and Roger, man, a stunning fucking film. Their story is amazing. And you talked about like the things people had to overcome and all that, the horrors that Roger endured growing up, and to some extent Freddie, where Roger wasn't there to be his blocker. Like, the experiences of Ezak, the experiences of Mike from District 9, like all these people were in a way tortured or mistreated or whatever. And instead of keeping the cycle of abuse going, instead of becoming, um, you know, lifelong victims or people that are permanently negatively impacted by this, they used it as something to push back against, to be like, no, like, I'm not going to stand for this. I'm going to make my own way. I'm going to blaze my own trail. I'm going to do my own thing. And what all those guys have been able to accomplish as a worldwide thing through this form of music, through this genre, through this movement, it's literally mind blowing when you really really think about it. And then when you see, I always remember I interviewed Agnostic Front for my old podcast, and I did it out in San Jose, California, because fucking Kirk Hammett flew out Agnostic Front to headline one of the nights at his horror con. Like he had this giant venue to show his personal horror collection, like as a horror convention. And I'm like, this is like layers upon layers of genius. And I always remember I was sitting in the little dressing room with Vinny, and then all of a sudden, Kirk Hammett comes in because he wants to talk to Vinny Stigma, and he wants to take a picture with Stigma and a picture with Roger. And I was like, man, Kirk Hammett's like the coolest motherfucker ever. Because again, it's so easy to be like, I'm Kirk Hammett. I'm in Metallica. Oh, hello, guys. Or, yeah, is everything good with your show? But he was like so stoked to see those guys. And I respect that so much. Anyone, I don't care how big your band is, if you're Metallica or Guns N' fucking Roses or whoever, if you're bringing an Agnostic Front or any sort of real band, any sort of hardcore music on out on your tour package, or you're putting it in front of people, that's the most amazing thing ever. You know what I'm saying? It's like it transcends everything, and not every band does it, but even bands that are like aren't the most credible or the most cool bands. I remember back in the day, Good Charlotte, at like kind of the peak of their pop fame or whatever you want, or crossover fame, they had Agnostic Front opening for them on some runs and stuff. And I was like, you know what? I may not listen to Good Charlotte, but man, do I respect the living fuck out of that, because anybody would have, any band's label or management would have paid for their band to be opening for Good Charlotte at that time. But instead, Good Charlotte said, no, don't give us that money. We're instead going to pay AF and have them out here with us. Like, that's fucking respect.
Well, the craziest thing about pop punk and New York hardcore crossing over, Tommy Rat was a roadie for MXPX.
Hmm?
I didn't. Today researching this.
Post Rejuvenate?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is weird because I was like, I wonder what Tommy Rat, like other than, the bands that Tommy Rat was in, all the legendary bands. I'm like, I wonder what else he did. And then sure enough, he was listed as crew on 2 different MXPX records.
I literally had no idea about that.
Nor did I. Maybe there's another guy that stole his name, but it feels like Tommy Rat would, like.
Yeah, there can be only one.
Yeah, exactly. It's also with Agnostic Front, back to you saying this respect for this band, that Matthew Barney film, The Cremaster Cycle, which is filmed at the MoMA, and it's this crazy art film. But there's this one scene where they go up to this floor, and on one side of the room, Agnostic Front is playing, and on the other side of the room, Murphy's Law is playing. And then the two crowds start interacting and kind of like fighting and moshing. But the original plan, Roger told me, was that it was actually supposed to be Slapshot. And it's like, it's this total like New York versus Boston thing. Because like the way the guys that are watching Murphy's Law are dressed, some are wearing Boston hockey jerseys.
Sure.
And you're like, oh, but then Slapshot couldn't do it at the last minute. And it was replaced with Murphy's Law. It's like, God damn, like this is in the fine art world that they know about this beef, and that they've got Agnostic Front playing in the MoMA.
One of the legendary stories of hardcore, I wish someone could just make a hour documentary about this. Like when I think about stuff like the Cro-Mags versus Suicidal Tendencies, and like Suicidal Tendencies, who were some badass motherfuckers, would come all the way from Venice to play New York, and then the Cro-Mags would be like, oh yeah, I love War Inside My Head, back when it was called No Mercy, Show No Mercy at All on the fucking Cro-Mags record. I mean, it seems obvious in retrospect that Suicidal lifted that. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Suicidal made it up, but it seems in retrospect, Suicidal did steal that song from the Cro-Mags, and the Cro-Mags were like, we're going to beat the fuck out of you when you come to New York. And Suicidal's like, bring it. That to me is like the Hulk versus the Thing or something. You know what I mean? Like, respect to all those guys.
And you probably witnessed this firsthand at some point. Sheer Terror versus Cro-Mags beef.
Ooh, no, I don't know about that. I remember there was like almost a Murphy's Law Sheer Terror beef. And I don't know if that was, but that's long.
And this is like dead. In Toronto. And so I'm getting this through Broken Telephone Legend. But I heard that at one point a cinder block was dropped from an overpass into some.
Yeah. That to me, that's the Murphy's Law Sheer Terror story. But maybe there's multiple layers.
This might be I'm millions of miles away in Toronto hearing this stuff through like hardcore, broken telephones. So I'm sure it probably is the Murphy's Law one and just became the Cro-Mags in the retelling.
And who
But
knows,
that's a
they're
crazy.
possible for multiple bands to be out there. I always am grateful that Paul Bearer one time, I don't really know Paul Bearer personally, but when I started, you know, having my fun and putting out records and shit, obviously I would love to smoke weed and have some drinks and get all loco and shit. And speaking of loco, after a show at St. Mark's Place or CV's or whatever, you'd go to San Loco, this Mexican restaurant on Avenue B, I think it was, right there off St. Mark's. And there was a point where Paul Bearer worked there. Like if you went in there to get a burrito or whatever, he would just be the guy at the counter. And I remember I was fucking drunk, and I had some kind of a giant, like a magic marker that's like a little more than a regular marker. And I don't know why I did this, but I'm at San Loco, like we all order food and whatever. I'm drunk, and then while they're making my food, I just like write my name on the wall, like
Like
Kevin
tag it?
Gill, something like a tag, but just writing
Or
my
like
name on
straight
the
up your real name on the wall.
yeah, Kevin Gill, whatever, whatever. I don't know what I'm fucking thinking. I'm all drunk and shit, and you think you got away with it. And then I don't know if it was the next day or a very short time later. Again, pre cell phone, pre all that shit. I'm home. The same phone number that Jimmy called to invite me into this world. I get a phone call and it's Paul Bearer. And he's like, "Hey, you ever write your fucking name on San Loco again, we're gonna have a problem." And I'm like, I am so, so sorry. Being drunk is no excuse, but I was out of hand. No disrespect. He's like, just don't do that, man. That's not cool. But to me, that was like, thank you. Thank you for smartening me. And granted, obviously it's wrong, but you could have made my life miserable. You could have done a lot of things to me, but instead you just told me straight up, like, bro, don't fucking do that. And I was like, loud and clear. And I never did anything like that again. But I respect the fact that it would have been easy for him to do something much worse or whatever, you know what I mean? But instead he just gave me a lesson, and I appreciate that
You could,
tremendously.
you could be driving down the BQE with a cinder block in your lap.
That's crazy. That now I huh. Now I can't stop thinking about the Murphy's Law and Cro-Mags. And who knows, maybe there was members of Murphy's Law and Cro-Mags in the van. And I don't remember if it was off an overpass or if it was the type of thing where there's the sheer terror van and the other van behind it, and then you just open like a movie. You open the back doors of the van and throw this. In my mind, that was the move, but because that's even more crazy in a way. Because otherwise, if you're on the overpass, then that's some kind of like scouting shit. Like, listen, today between 3 and 4. Murphy's Law is going to be driving down 675 East. We gotta, just be
Get the
waiting for
cinder blocks
hours.
ready. It's yeah, there's like, and that's the thing about New York is there's so many bands at that time, and there's so many legends about these bands, and they were all like so much larger than life, like Dark Side NYC.
Oh man.
What a wild band. Like when you get into the members of that band and all the different bands they came out of to be in it, like musically they're fucking incredible, but like you've got the guitar player from Deep
Blake.
Wound.
Oh, sorry. Is that Blake or no?
No, it's
Originally, it was Blake from Sheer Terror. That's the era I remember them from.
and then it's Scott from the Outpatients and Deep Wound, like Jay Mascis's band before Dinosaur Jr. and Lou Barlow's band and stuff. Like he's in the band with those dudes. And there's someone from the Voluptuous Horror of Karen Black in it
Wow.
for a while too. It's like, yeah, like them, everybody gets hurt. There's like so many bands. Like, I don't know. I've kept you for a very long time, Kevin, and I feel like we might have to do another conversation at some point.
Anytime, man. Anytime you need a second wheel conversationally, if someone flakes out, stabs you in the fucking back, throws a cinder block through your fucking Zoom window when they're supposed to be dropping knowledge and sharing wisdom, if someone puts baloney on your doorknobs, if someone steals the riff to make war inside my head,
Oh,
show you no mercy at all. War inside my head.
we had in Toronto, our equivalent was the band Five Knuckle Chuckle, then called No Offense, who are Adam Copeland, Edge, best friends from high
Oh
school.
wow.
Grew up with him, and the drummer from Five Knuckle Chuckle actually stole
I
Adam.
can't get over that name. I haven't heard that name before, and I can't
Yeah,
get over the name.
when I brought it up to him the first time when he was on my music video show that I used to do, and I'm like, now I'm going to play a song for you, Edge. What do you think about Five Knuckle Chuckle? His face, it's like he saw a fucking ghost. He couldn't believe it. And he's like, yeah, the drummer stole me the Nirvana Nevermind CD because I didn't have enough money to afford it. And he wanted me to hear it. So he went and ripped me off a copy. I think the statute of limitations is long past.
Of
But I
course,
wouldn't
yeah, yeah, yeah.
give
And
out his
granted,
name there.
same. I shoplifted many records, not many, many, but I remember one day, one pivotal day in my life, I shoplifted Nuclear Assault's Handle with Care and NWA Straight Outta Compton on the same day.
A good mix. But this band, Five
And they're
Knuckle
both in
Chuckle,
the end section too. So I mean,
that's right. Easy pickings, I guess. No camera there. But the oh fuck, now I forgot what I was saying. It was oh yeah,
welcome to my world.
Five Knuckle Chuckle had their song stolen by Guttermouth.
Really?
Yeah, ripped off completely. Lyrics changed, but the music was
Oh,
completely jacked.
same. I remember just as a fan, Murphy's Law's Panty Raid was out years before Offspring used the exact same riff and cadence and everything to make their biggest hit song of all time.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that, but you're right on that. The other one that I wanted to ask you about is on Six and Violence's LP from 1990, the only other record released on Fist other than the Warzone record. Uh, they have flute on two tracks, and according to the credits, it's provided by the dude from Jethro Tull.
Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull plays flute and speaks on two different songs on the Six of Violence record, a record which I reissued on CD called Bastards of the Universe. So it's their complete first album, second album, and then a bunch of live and demos and whatever.
Is it that
That's
first demo from '84? Is that on there too?
A bunch of it is like I didn't. There's so much stuff. So we did. I don't know if it was like a 64-page book of stories and flyers, and we just fully maxed out what two CDs could do. So it was like basically the first album and as much bonus demos and all that stuff and live that we could fit from that era, and then second album and the same. But all that shit's on Spotify and stuff too. Unfortunately, the way it's listed, it took the like featuring Ian Anderson that like populated onto every song, and he's not on every song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's on like Bursting Bladder and what's the other one?
He's
I
on,
prefer the term urinate, old boy.
yeah, on the
Yeah, he
second
does.
one.
He what's that?
He's on the one track on the first side and one track on
Yeah.
the second side.
There's a song about having a pee, like I really gotta go. I really gotta go. Something. I don't need your spectacles. Just lend me your receptacle. And then it's all about I have to pee, I have to pee, I have to pee. And then the song ends, and then it's Ian Anderson like, oh, I do prefer the term urinate, old boy, but I guess what does he have to say? It's like something. I don't know what the first rhyme is, if it's treason or something, but he's like, da 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 da, treason. Of what one peas in or peas on. So, Kurt, if you really have to go, then you really have to go. And yeah, Ian Anderson and the Jethro Tull guys Kurt's from Six and Violence, one of the singers. He had family in the airline industry, and back then, if your family worked in the airline industry, you could fly places for free. So Kurt would fly to other countries sometimes to go see Jethro Tull, and go see them, meaning go hang out with them, go be backstage with them, and they're all like, "Oh, it's Kurt!" Like, yeah, it's the weirdest fucking thing ever. But yeah, Ian Anderson plays on it, and every now and then, like a Jethro Tull fan society or something, someone will discover it. And I remember one night, I was just sitting here like I am now, and all of a sudden I got like 3 eBay notifications like within a minute that someone bought a Six and Violence record CD. And my first thought was that somebody died. I was like concerned, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
how
people-
did someone, it sold like 3 in the last 9 months. How did 3 different people buy it in the last 5 minutes? And then there was just an article about the brilliance of Ian Anderson and how he did this collaboration with them, and the songs are so great. And this fan group made a post about it, and then that moved their fans in to buy it. But those guys, I feel like, also in some ways, not always, but in some ways, they also paved the way for Slipknot, which is something no one ever acknowledges. But And you can tell me because someone probably did it before Six and Violence, but as far as I'm concerned, I never in my life saw a band with two stand-up percussion players playing the drums. Like Dave Miranda would play the basic drum set, but set up so that it's for standing. And then Kenny Kim would play the cymbals. All the cymbals were set up as a different drum set, and they would both stand there and play in sync with each other and whatever. And that it was always like to me the Six and Violence staffing with the no redeeming stage wear and a bunch of metal is Slipknot. Do you know what I mean? Slipknot would wear the no redeeming jumpsuits on stage, and you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
just crazy.
Well, I
And
guess
have the Six and Violence drum set up.
I wonder if it's like because it would have been the same time because if demo's the 84, I think the Six and Violence demo, which would have put it at the same time as kind of the Butthole Surfers
Yeah.
are doing it with the two drummers. So it must have been like, yeah, like just like this sort of unique thing that both these bands are kind of like doing at that time.
And just trying to find, yeah, because what can you do? Like everyone sits down behind the drum. So it's like, oh, well, what if we did this? And Six and Violence is such an underrated band. Like there's a great quote from Scott Ian about them. And it says, even in the future, Six and Violence will be ahead of their time. Like
True.
that we put that in the CD booklet. Like, but that's so powerful. Like, you know, Scott Ian is a legend. And to hear that said, oh, and the other thing about Six and Violence for people that don't know, because I'm sure a lot of people are hearing about Six and Violence for the first time, there's at least two songs I know of that, again, I don't think I'm talking out of school here, that Agnostic Front directly lifted from Six and Violence, at least the music, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of the song, it's the song that's on the Agnostic Front live at CB's, and it's like, yo, this goes out to all the straight edge kids. I can't think of what that song's called, but that whole opening riff, that's a Six and Violence. That used to be their live intro that they would play, and it's all from the same time. And I talked to Craig Ahead about it from Sick of It All, who's the Bayside resident, just like Danny Lilker, and at that time Kurt from Six and Violence and Dave Miranda and stuff. And at the time, Craig just said, yeah, like I'm guilty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think it's the song Bastard too on the One Voice record. If it's what I'm thinking of, is Six and Violence's most famous song is called Golf, often called Putt Putt Golf. And that song, I believe, is the song Bastard, became the song Bastard. I could be mixing up which AF song it is right now. But so that happened in a good way. And then a few years later, we did this famous show in the Bronx at the Mullally Skate Park. It was SFT Records and UND Bikes. And it was Sick of It All, District 9. I forget, you know what I'm saying? A bunch of those core bands. And during Six and Violence's set, they were recording a cover of Victim in Pain that was going to be on their next, the Three-Way Dance EP, the very first hardcore pro wrestling concept record.
We got to talk about this because it's crazy. We'll talk about this record in a second because I got to ask you about this.
So basically, then Six and Violence invited me in advance, like so I knew about it. Like they wanted me to come up on stage and sing "Victim in Pain" with them during their set. But I'm almost like scared, even though there's all this song borrowing going on. Like I just felt like, am I allowed to do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when they put it out on the Three-Way Dance record, then I was even more like publishing and we came very, very close to calling it Victim in Paramus instead of Victim in Pain, just so that it didn't say, but that was out of respect. Like, because you're in a position you can't really ask, but you don't want to step on toes. And meanwhile, they'd be like, yeah, go ahead. But we were I was too scared to ask.
So you brought up the Three-Way Dance, first wrestling concept record.
First and probably only.
Well, I think there's been a couple since then, wrestling themed records, but maybe not three ways. But no redeeming social values. The Six and Violence makes sense. How the fuck did Romantic Gorilla wind up the third entry in this?
Romantic Gorilla was one of those like to me the PO box was the hotbed. You know, like that VOD mailed me their tape to the PO box, and it as soon as I pressed play, it was like, oh my god. Romantic Gorilla, same thing. They had sent me some tapes and records and stuff, and I was like, yo, this is crazy. This isn't like the hardcore I listen to, but it's so fucking crazy. And it's from Japan. And there's girls in the band. Like, and so it's different. And I just liked them. And then they hit me up and were like, you know how Japanese people, especially in hardcore, everyone's very polite and they send you these beautiful written letters and stuff. And they were just saying it's their dream to come to New York. And if they were able to come to New York, do I think I might be able to help them with some shows? Because Spaz, I think it was going to hook them up with some shows in California. And then they would come to New York. Can you do a few shows with us for us? So we did like I guess while that was all happening, I came up with this idea to do a three-way dance. And I was a UGCW fan at the time. And the three-way dance was like the exciting match type. And I had the concept of what if we got three different bands and each band covered one song by the other two bands that are on the record, and then the rest is their originals. But we'll have them like each band gets ring announced. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're listening to it, like the band comes out to the ring and they play, and every band does a little mic work. You know what I mean? Where they come out and talk, cut promos, or talk to the crowd. But we have the bed of crowd noise and the reaction. So it's like the radio. You know what I mean? Like you're feeling this experience. But basically, Remain Gorilla got involved because they sent me their shit and they were awesome. And then we had the idea to do that split. And then they wanted to come and do the shows. So then we could actually do it live. Not so much the wrestling part, but the fact that all three of these bands could do a little mini tour together. Like we got Romantic Gorilla to play on WNYU. We did a show. I can't remember where the New York show was. I don't know if it was Coney Island High, but it was somewhere in New York. And we did a church in Maryland and one other place. But it was basically just they mailed me their tape. They were super awesome to deal with. I loved I wanted to do a whole and I started work on it too. I wanted to do a East meets West comp, but instead of it being New York and California, I wanted it to be fucking New York and Japan. And it was like a two disc, it was going to be a 2-disc set with New York and Japan together. And then I even started collecting assets for it, but then it just didn't materialize. So the three-way kind of became that. And in addition to all the custom art on gatefold or whatever, so you can see the cover is just key members of the bands fighting, but then when you unfold it unfolds twice and it's the whole ring and you see everyone in all the bands. You get to see what moves they're doing, but then the whole crowd is made up of famous wrestlers or cartoons like the Pink Panther or Jimmy's in there or Hulk Hogan, like the Masked Superstar. Like everyone's in this crowd. And there was a tear off tab after those three panels, and you vote who won the three-way dance.
Oh, that's amazing.
And the only
I've never
thing,
go on, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
The only thing I didn't. So the point was, whoever got the most votes, I was going to get them like that NWA world title replica belt because it had the flags and stuff on it. And at the time, just discovering, I can get a pretty good replica belt for like this much. And how cool would it be? But then those records were like some of the last records I did. And then when I got offered the job at this fledgling video game company that then became Rockstar Games, their caveat was, we don't want you to do this other stuff and work for us. We want the full you working for us. So no, don't do records, don't do concerts or whatever. And believe me, I was happy because they wanted to pay me money. So
yeah,
I didn't, but I had to finish it out. I had one show on the calendar and I did it, but that was it. And so I never got to present the belt. I never got to give that NWA world title to whoever won it. And I would have loved to have done more records like that. I would have loved to have done the East meets West comp. I had the 20th release of SFT never came out. But it's fully sequenced and it's a sampler. So it was meant to be like one of those like Fat Records and all them did, where it's just everyone on the fucking label for like a $4 CD. But we had all these great voicemails and just bullshit in between each track. And it's like literally fully, it's like I have the master ready, no packaging. Oh, and the cover, I still remember the cover. I have this 8x10 still from They Live. and Roddy Piper and pardon me, the other gentleman who passed away, the actor who was with them, the guy who they have the fight scene.
Put on the
It's the scene
glasses.
of them. What was that?
Put on the glasses.
Yeah. So it's the scene where the black gentleman finally puts on the glasses. So like he's got them on and they're both all just bloody and like Piper's got his arm around them. Like it's just the and it was called The Future of Music. And then they were the cover, like they can see, you know what I mean? But it was so fucking sick, dude. Whatever you want to call that, just as a and to me, that was going to be something key to then moving us to get to record 25 and to get to 30, like, you know what I mean? Here's this taste of what's going on. At that point, we had gotten that band Neck. They were released 19, 18, I think was the three-way dance. So Neck was so amazing, so incredible. Like to me, they were even better than VOD and all the shit because the Mike Patton range of the singer and who could even go further than Mike Patton in some ways as far as the screaming and whatever. But yeah, those were just amazing times. But that kind of ended up wrapping up the label, and you know, out of necessity. You know, what I mean? Like in retrospect, it's kind of like I should have had someone just once a year put something to keep it going. But at the same time, like working at Rockstar Games became the best way I can put it is like, wow, for the first time in my life, I have money to pay all of my bills, but I'm behind on my bills because I literally don't have time to pay them because they want you to be at work fucking 7 days a week, 12 or more hours a day. So I always remember like if I could be sitting there and be like, wow, 3 months from tonight, this concert is happening. Sure would be nice to go, but I couldn't even plan it. I would have to wait until that day, until that evening, and just be at work working and then see like, oh, the founder of the company's mom is in town and they're going out to dinner. Like the second those motherfuckers walk out the door, I'm going to this concert. But more often it was, I can't possibly go anywhere or do anything because I'm on the schedule. And I did it gladly. I did it. I was happy for the opportunity. But I always remember one day they sent out this company-wide memo. And nowadays this would probably be illegal, but they sent out a memo that basically said from today until the end of the year, and it was like early in the year, it was like March or something. From like today until the end of the year, everyone has to be at work 7 days a week and whatever it is, 12 hours a day. And my issue was it would be whether there was something to do or not. So I'm doing all kinds of shit, but if I'm done, why do I have to come sit here for? Do you know what I mean? Or they'd be like, oh, we're going to be getting a new build of this game on Saturday and we need someone to play through it. And again, I'm the marketing person, but that's how small the company was. So I'm like, okay, you want me to play through the game? That's fine. But let's be real. No one's sending a new version of the game on Saturday. Like we were just in that meeting. The last version they sent is broken. We just told them everything that's wrong with it. We're not getting a new version for several days. That's bollocks. You need to be here, whatever. So then I would go there and you'd get there and you go to your friend, like, let me guess, there's no fucking game. You'd be like, no, of course there's no fucking game. There's nothing for us to do. So then I would go record shopping and do whatever. But the point was they sent out that memo. The same guy who hired me sent out a memo saying everyone has to be at work 7 days a week, all day, every day, all night for the rest of the year. And I read it and I'm like, okay. And then I reply back just privately to him. And I'm like, hey, Sam, you can count on me. I'll be here for all these days. If I may, like my niece is getting christened next Saturday at like 10 a.m. If possible, I really want to attend her christening. So I can come work before I go, or come work, or literally come sit here and do nothing. But I can come do it and then leave for a few hours and come back, or I can just come right after. Whatever works for you. Would that be okay? And then he called me into his office like I had like taken a shit on his face, like, "How dare you? Who thank you?" Like he's literally like having to restrain himself from attacking me, and I'm just like, fuck this. Like that set in wheel, that and other things just started to set the wheels in motion. Where I'm like, I got to get the fuck out of here, man, because this isn't cool or reasonable. And I always remember when I quit, I already got another job. Like another video game company hired me. I signed the contract, and then I told them I was leaving. So then when I told them I was leaving, they were just like, all right, how much? And I'm like, no, it's been great. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been incredible, but I got to move on to other things. Like, seriously, Kevin, how much do you want? And I'm like, I already signed a contract to go work somewhere else. And they're, some would say they're still mad at me to this day, which I'm not mad at them.
Yeah.
Hey, things were crazy at that time. You guys were super on cocaine. I was super on marijuana, chill, aggro. But the fact that yeah, so I went on to do other things and they were very mad about it. But it's like, why did you push me so far? And they paid me well, but then you're like, oh, what do you want? More money? You want a different schedule? And it's like, why did you make it so unpleasant so that I didn't want to be around you anymore and I didn't want to be a part of this because you made it all fucking horrible? But then you want me to stay. It's like such a strange approach. And so one other quick story about that.
Yeah.
Just come on the other thing that happened. Then this is like right as on my way out. My wife she used to had an airline family too, like Kurt, and she used to go to Ireland every summer and spend it with her family over there. So this year she went around Thanksgiving or something. So I'm just working 12 hours a day and then alone. And it's that short week coming up to Thanksgiving, which is always on a Thursday. And I used to get the Yahoo alerts, or they have the Yahoo desktop that showed you like all the cities you want to fly to and what the cheapest flight is. And that's my desktop. So I just look at it and I'm like, there's flights to Amsterdam for like 249, whatever the outrageous price was at the time. And I'm like, fuck, I want to go. I want to go this weekend. I got nothing to do. I want to sit around and have Thanksgiving by myself. I'll go to Amsterdam. So this amazing artist I work with named Jung, she was like, I've always wanted to go to Amsterdam. Like, can I come with you? I'm like, well, yeah, much better than going by myself. Absolutely. Let's do this. And then she's like, all right, I'm going to go tell them that I want I'm like, what do you, no, 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 no. Don't say fucking anything about what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? And she's like, no, like, don't be crazy. Like, I have to tell them what I'm doing. And I'm like, so she goes in, and the bosses were very high on her, very fond of her. She was very talented. She goes in the office, and I could see her through the glass, and then she comes out, just tears running down her face, and she's like, "I'm not allowed to go." Again, think about this. She's not allowed to go. Oops. She's not allowed. Oh, sorry. This is. She's not allowed to go away over Thanksgiving weekend. This is like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're back on Monday, and they told her she wasn't allowed to go. And the hardcore in me is like, oh, I'm fucking going now. Even before I wouldn't have gone by myself. Now I'm going alone because I'm fucking going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they were like, this is going to be the biggest mistake of your career. I'm like, what's that? Going away for 2 days over a holiday weekend and being back on Monday. And they wanted me just to bow to them and to submit. And I'm like, I give so much and you've given to me, but this is fucking ridiculous. And I'm going to Amsterdam. And yeah, so that that was on my way out. But I just can't be infringed. I will contribute. I'll be a team player. I'll go to war for you. I have your back. I'll generate ideas. I'll do whatever needs to be done to build this. And I'll keep that focus of like, how can we make this better? But if you're going to, along the way, then start sniping at me or fucking with my happiness over our games and ego, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, like I think it's because as religions faded and all these sorts of institutions have faded, the belief has just been in money. So like these guys just can't believe that you wouldn't want the money. And I think that's the thing about punk and hardcore that it really instilled in me. And this is counter to kind of the teachings of wrestling when it's all about the dollar, brother. But that there's some things bigger than money, and there's some things that are more important than money, and community and culture and shared experience and creating spaces like this. Like that was always like a guiding thing to me. It's like, well, like there's lots of jobs, but there's only like one. Like there's things that are more important than this money. So like as long as I can find a way to survive, I've got something bigger than this bullshit that I'm concerned with.
And yeah, agreed. And then also direct your agita and whatever your malcontent is Don't direct it at your biggest allies. Direct it at your enemies. Direct it
Yeah.
at those who are trying to stop you, trying to destroy you, whatever. You know, at the time, Rockstar, there was all sorts of controversy and people wanted their company shut down and all this. Don't fight. You know, as Roger said, you know, fight the outside world, not each other. But it's so true. Like we are one. We are one team here. So instead of picking at me, your ambassador or whatever, let's link arms and run and break through and do what we have to do. And of course, Rockstar Games went on to become one of the biggest, really the biggest video game company of all time. Like Grand Theft Auto sold more copies than Mario, you know, the Super Mario Brothers or whatever.
I would say culturally one of the biggest things of all time, right? Like when that new Grand Theft Auto drops,
Oh,
like it's gonna break the internet. People are gonna lose their fucking minds.
and what's funny too, and I think people get this, but I don't know if everyone does. So just to say it out loud, like people wonder, you know, like why the fuck isn't there a new Grand Theft Auto? Why does it take so long? I mean, besides the fact that those guys spend more time and more money than anyone to, you know, to polish and bring these things to another level. It's all of that, but it's also the idea, the real reason why it's like 10 years or whatever it is between Grand Theft Auto games is because they stumbled into the world of subscription based gaming and pay to download packs and maps and whatever. And they make so much fucking money just off the monthly subscriptions to play GTA Online. And that's before people buy, you know, money and weapons and graphics and skins and all that shit. The paid content within video games changed the video games forever. Like a great example was the WWE games. At a certain point, when the downloadable content first came out, a company I was friendly with put out the WWE or a WWF video game, and it did very, you know, at that point, the WWE games would always sell like a million, 1.2 million like every time, clockwork. And they did that, and the people at the company were kind of like, it's a little, you know, it didn't do so well. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, one, what did you expect it to do? Like, to me, I've looked at all this data endlessly, and it's going to sell between, you know, 950 and 1.2 million every time. And sorry. Oh yeah. So then they put out the first downloadable character, or that's a paid thing. And then at work, or when I talked to them, it was so they couldn't believe they made more money off selling this one character or this one download pack than they made selling the whole. You know, the game has physical parts, and when you manufacture a video game, the video game publisher like Sony or Microsoft, they get paid a giant royalty for every game sold, and they build their royalty into the manufacturing. So
Mm-hmm.
your cost of goods, if you know, we all know what a DVD or similar thing costs to make. Imagine there was a $10 or a $13 royalty built in. So now your cost of goods as the video game publisher is like $15 a unit instead of $2 a unit or whatever it is, because you're building them their 13, you know? So it's like it's just crazy how it works. But essentially, downloadable content, paid content, and subscription models change video games forever. In some ways, as far as an immersive experience for Grand Theft Auto, it's incredible for the fans, and they can live in this online persistent world, which was a dream of Rockstar for so many years. But then, in a way, it's able to, at a certain level, you want the room creatively to be able to do what you want, but at a certain point, it becomes Chinese democracy. Like I think the next Grand Theft Auto was going to be way better than Chinese democracy was, but there comes a point where it's like it doesn't have to be this long to
Yeah.
wait. You know what I mean? But as a publicly traded company, as long as they're setting record earnings every year, just people paying to play the old 10-year-old or whatever it is, Grand Theft Auto, they're not going to change. But it's just it's interesting analysis or whatever, because the music industry doesn't have something like that. That's what's interesting. In the music industry, you pay your 9.99 or whatever it is to Spotify, they kick back essentially nothing to the artists, and the cycle is complete. In video games, you're selling the fucking subscription. You keep all of the money. You know what I mean? And that's why Rockstar is Rockstar, and record labels and bands are struggling.
Yeah, like I had Edmund McMillan on the show, who made the video game Super Meat Boy, and then he did a video game called The Binding of Isaac.
Oh wow, I know both of those.
Yeah, and
Super Meat Boy especially.
so he is far wealthier than any independent musician I've ever met based off his creative work. And it's just like incredible the reach of these independent video games where he did like a Kickstarter for a board game version of The Binding of Isaac. And that thing had like $8 million contributed to it or something. Like it was crazy. Like I was just oblivious to it. And like here I am in this world that has this huge, far outsized cultural reach of punk rock where a band is successful if they sell 2,000 copies of a 7-inch, or like, this band did really well. They've like, made $20,000 in t-shirts or something. It's like, no, this video game world, it crushes our little world.
Yeah, like the cost of goods can be high, and obviously the cost to create and etc. is very, very high. But once if the planets align and all that, the possibilities are literally limitless. Even a game like Backyard Wrestling, which I'm always proud to say, in 2003, I think was the year the first one came out. It was the only new IP on the top 10 charts for the fourth quarter for the holiday season, which is like it's something like 80 or 75% of all video game sales would happen between like October something and going into Christmas in those days. Like
Yeah.
everything was built on that, what I'm getting for Christmas and shit. And yeah, it's just crazy to think about that. So everything else was like Tony Hawk 7 and Call of Duty 11 and FIFA 6 and NFL whatever, Backyard fucking Wrestling. And it's like there's hundreds of video games released. And then the annual schedule becomes overloaded in that window because everyone wants to release their game at the time when the most people are in the store and everyone's coming in to buy. And Backyard Wrestling, with a fraction of the budget, with a fraction of the development, with Sick of It All and Murphy's Law and Gorilla Biscuits and Bad Brains and Rancid, and I could name Andrew WK and a zillion bands on the soundtrack, playable characters, all this stuff.
Was
like
Steve-O
the fact
a playable character in it?
Andrew?
Steve-O from Jackass?
No.
Okay. I thought there was a Jackass thing, but I used to play it, but I can't remember.
I think I think Andrew WK might have been one of the only like unlockable. It was funny. I could tell you this. I don't know if I've ever said this publicly. Like as Backyard Wrestling internally, as the development ramped up, and there was articles written about it and stuff. So I would start getting solicited. Yeah, first I'm the one trying to find bands and labels that'll let me put their music in the game in exchange for money and promotion. But then at a certain point, the paradigm shifts and everyone's calling me for these opportunities. And that reminds me of two things. And I already forgot the second one. So I'm going to switch to the first one. At this time, VOD obviously had been off on their own for, coming up on 10 years, doing their thing with Roadrunner and whatever. And, there was times because I felt like I had something to do with VOD's blow up success because they had this record and whatever. And then they went, full on, good for them, to Roadrunner. But I was like I felt like there was a little bit of tension between me and the band or whatever, where in other words, I'd always said to them at the time, like, they'd be like, yo, you still gonna be cool with us if we sign to Roadrunner? I'm like, look, all I ever ask, just remember this vibe. Like, see how we are right now? Just remember this vibe. That's one. And two, when you guys have like windbreakers or you put out some crazy hoodie or whatever, just bring one for me. That's it. If you do that, we'll be cool forever. You know what I mean? But so the point is, I wasn't that cool with VOD. And then I got a call from a manager who managed Mudvayne. And he's, I would get cold calls and he's just like, hey, this is so-and-so. I manage Mudvayne. I'm like, oh, wow. Hey, again, I wasn't a huge Mudvayne fan, but their popularity and stuff. I'm like, oh, I don't have anyone from that world. Like, I want Mudvayne in the game. And he's like, hey, I'm wondering, like, I see you got this and this and this and this and this. Why not Mudvayne? And I'm like, to be candid with you, I sent the offer letter from Mudvayne and it was denied. And he's like, what? Who denied it? And I'm like, hold on. And I pull out the thing and I'm like, whoever his name is on it, says whoever, Susan Jones. He's like, I'll call you right back. So he called me back like 10 minutes later. He's like, check the fax machine. And there's a signed thing to put Mudvayne's song in the game. I'm like, wow, dude, like, thank you so much. I'm like, such a pleasure to work with you. I go, may I ask? what other bands do you work with? Because, maybe we can kill a few birds with one stone here. And he's like, oh, I've got this new project. I'm not sure if it's for you, but it's called Blood Simple. And it features, I'm like, Tim Williams from Vision of Disorder. And he's like, how do you know? I'm like, I put out VOD's first record. And he's like, oh, dude, like, because, Blood Simple hadn't even come out yet. And he's like, oh, it would be, very helpful to them to be in this video game and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I would love to do it. And I told him, I was like, I don't know if the band is really fond of me at the moment or whatever, but why not this? Yes, Blood Simple. Let's also put a VOD song from the SFT record in the video game. And let's go to them for that. So they double dip or whatever. And, they're getting paid for the songs. And they were fully down with it. And that was really cool because that reconnected me with VOD, and it gave them a cool opportunity. It gave Blood Simple a little opportunity. And it's just amazing what you could do with wheeling and dealing back in those days. And I'll never, I wish I could remember his name, but I still to this day think fondly of Mudvayne just because how awesome their fucking manager was. It just cutting through the fucking bullshit. Another time I had licensed a bunch of KRS-One. Well, KRS-One had music in Backyard Wrestling. And I always felt like, man, like KRS-One, the teacher, he's like this fucking professor of hip hop and knowledge and positivity. And I would think like, would he really like the idea of like his music being in this, weird like white boy fight game? You know what I mean? Like, what would he think about this? And would that be cool? And then I went through the process of licensing his music. And, some artists own their publishing and some don't. Some have sign off and some don't. So I was able to completely license KRS-One's music without him signing or even being aware of what I was doing. So then KRS-One was playing right near my house in San Francisco at the time that I had just licensed his music. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go tell him. I'm going to tell him what I'm doing and and see what he says. And I went into it with the idea that I believe, fuck.
I think you cut off.
But
there you
are. Oh, sorry.
No, I get you.
I was like, I think he might be offended by this, but I want to tell him. So after the show, he's at the merch table or whatever, and I just go over. I'm like, hey, Chris, it's so nice to meet you. And he's like a god, and he's so engaging. And I was like, hey, Chris, I learned about vegetarianism from you. Like your music opened up so many doors and knowledge to me. And he's like, oh, thank you. And I was like, somehow, some way, I've ended up in a position that I can somehow give something back to you to say thank you for doing this. He's like, well, wow, like, what is it? I'm like, oh, I'm working on this video game called Backyard Wrestling. I saw this game. It's like a man had barbed wire and he put it on the other man's face. And the blood, but he's got the giant smile. He's like, it was amazing. And the other guy jumped off the roof. And I was like, oh, I licensed Get Yourself Up or whatever. He's like, you licensed my song? And I'm like, yeah, we did it through Zamba or whatever, or Jive. It's all set. I got this one and this one. He's like, can I ask you a favor? And I'm like, absolutely, Chris. And he's like, if you ever want to do anything with me again, please don't call the label. Just call me. I'm like, oh, I would love to, Chris. I was like, I don't know how to get in touch with you. Do you know what I mean? But if there's someone I can contact, I'll never go through any label. I'll go through you. And I was at the table to get him to sign the poster for the event. Like, that's what he was doing. Like, Chris will be signing posters of the event. I still have it on my wall. It's a vertical poster like this with a giant microphone on it, and it says the teacher with like electricity coming out of it. So he's autographing my poster for me, and he just writes his phone number like this big across the middle. He's like, here's my number, like, call me. And I'm like, you got it, sir. And then like at work a few weeks later, we were working on this hip hop game, and someone, some person who doesn't know anything about music was like, oh, we need like who's a rapper who can play a press event and like really impress the crowd. I'm like, KRS-One, you fucking kill it. And with that, the freestyling and everything, forget it. Like, how can we get him? I'm like, I have his number. So then I just contact them. I'm like, hey, we're doing this press event. And, it's just it's a private gig, basically. And so come play for the video game media. at this club with a full sound, PA, all that. Do your set. We'll invite all these guests and press and whatever. And he came and did it. And we even did something else with him too. And he was so fucking cool every fucking time. And it was so magical just to be able to share that. But the biggest takeaway for me was that KRS-One, Chris Parker, was both entertained and amused by the fact that fucking people are ripping each other's faces apart with barbed wire. Unlike MVP,
Yes.
KRS-One could see the glory of hardcore and deathmatch wrestling.
We got to tell MVP the teacher says you got to watch the death match.
It's like, yo, hey, P, not only did they not suspend the teacher, but the teacher is fully down with deathmatch. You know what I mean?
I could not imagine sitting down and playing a WWE video game at this point. A backyard wrestling reboot in this sort of like sandbox era of video games where you could just kind of like free form around, build weapons, jump off structures, maybe
build arenas, bleed, like the bleeding technology now.
It would be amazing. Like that game is the game that needs to be rebooted. Like imagine Fortnite but with hand-to-hand combat and improvised weapons.
Man, and I think the install base of Fortnite, like if 10% of the Fortnite audience came over to do it without projectile-based weapons and did it with fists and spears and whatever the fuck else, it would change everything. Well, to anyone listening, I know you have a lot of listeners and a lot of people that you're cool with. I'm here. I'm available. I have all the contacts, all the fucking original design documents, or whatever the fuck you need. And plus, I wrote them. So easy peasy. Like, let's fucking do it. It takes a team and it takes funding. But now we're at a point in a good way where it doesn't take it, like there's DIY sort of style gaming, and there's like smaller teams that can craft you know what I'm saying, like not custom, but like a smaller team can make a game that's much more affordable to develop. And then the team is in on the revenue share, and you could sell it all digitally. Like it's there. I'd even love to see, I mean, they'd have to redo the character licenses and the music. I would even love to see them just take Backyard Wrestling 1 and 2. Like they reissue so many old games or do these collector edition packages. Part of the problem is Eidos Interactive, who put out Backyard Wrestling, got absorbed by this hostile takeover from this. Bono was going to buy Eidos Interactive, the company I worked for. And I had to do all these presentations to his people and all this stuff. And it was all about Bono and Elevation Partners are buying the company. It's going to change everything. And I'm like, all right, great. And then Bono and them are like, all right, I'm estimating the numbers here, but they're like, all right, we'll make, and we're a publicly traded company, so it's all public stuff. So they're like, all right, we're going to offer $60 million and we're going to buy Eidos Interactive. And everyone's all excited. And then we're moving forward with it. And this like budget game publisher from the UK, like, like in the $9.99 bin, be sure to pick up Circus Charlie or just some fucking just bullshit. You know what I mean? Various acquisitions. Like, oh, I found this terrible game from this other country and we can license it for free. Oh yeah, let's put that out. Those guys, they were England based, and England always had pride around Eidos for whatever reason, and Tomb Raider. So there was people in England and powers that be that didn't want. But Bono is from there too. Oh, he's Irish. I guess that makes sense. But there was people that didn't want that to happen. They didn't want the UK to no longer be involved with Eidos and Tomb Raider. So this little company, SCI, made a hostile fucking bid and bid like $64 million. Like they just leveraged everything they could and made that bid. And the Eidos people were just like, we're not even going to like acknowledge them. But you know how it is, as we're seeing now with Netflix and Warner Brothers and all that, and Paramount. There's ways you have to deal with it, and you can't ignore them, even though you think they're peons or they're jabronis or whatever. You have to formally do this, and you have fiscal responsibility to your shareholders. So these jabronis offered like $64 million, and I'm like, all right, cool. Well, so now Elevation will just offer 70, and it's over because these guys were fully leveraged at 64, and Bono and them are like, oh no, we're good. We just have the one bid at 60. So now, because we spent all this time and money getting in bed with Bono, then they were like, So now we were now trapped because we would have never been for sale in the first place.
Yeah.
But then because we were, these guys did the hostile takeover and they kind of ruined the company. But and then someone else bought it after that. So I don't even know where in the archives some of their source files are, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Because like that would, you're right. Like that would be a game that I think would do really well reissued, like in this era of Tony Hawk reissues and Skate being brought back. But like bringing it back with an online component would be,
Big time.
oh, it'd be amazing. It would be a
Backyard Wrestling 2 was scheduled, announced, and promoted as the first ever online wrestling. It had an
oh
online playable component that was removed in like the final week or two of, and it was one of those things. It all came back to these fucking morons who bought the company with their nickel and dime shit. And then we're doing two. I'm sorry, this wasn't even the morons who bought the company. I don't think this was just there was a point where IDOS was like, we need some new management. So we're going to hire the people that ran this other video game company into the fucking ground. Like just literally it disintegrated over their incompetence. We're going to hire those guys. So that I'm working with these morons who were then like, oh yeah, no, we have this online thing and this guy is in charge of it. But you just sit and talk with the guy and be like, this guy's full of shit. You know what I mean? Like this doesn't work. It's not correct. All the marketing was based on the online component. And then like a week or two before they pulled it. And then it's like it wasn't like it didn't dramatically affect it, but it's a lame duck in the sense of that we pushed so much that you could play it online. We were playing, like I would play it online from home in testing. We would have it at work and play against the developer and all that. But in the end, their short-sightedness and incompetence, a real short story. I always remember we would have these things where all the heads of all the studios from around the world would come in for a few days and everyone would have to show everyone else their game. Like, here's my game. Here's what it does. Here's where we're at. Here's where it's going. And all these morons that I've been working with, these new morons that got brought in, I'm kind of waiting for this big showing because these guys are going to get fucking eaten alive because I'm trying to raise the alarm on what they're doing bad, but it's like a little bit lost in the sauce when they're in front of these other people and me. And it's like a deposition in a way. I'm going to also be questioning you. It's going to be incredible. And I kept telling everyone who would listen, like the online component isn't stable. It's not shipping, da, 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 da. And the day of this DevCon, it was called, all the players come in from all over the world. And I'm going to present the game with the two heads of product development, who I call the morons. And I always remember the meeting's about to start and we're all sitting there and everyone's like, where are those two fucking morons? Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
And then again, it's old school. So someone comes in like, Kevin Gill, there's a phone call for you in the lobby. So like you have to go outside like to the area and like get on the phone. And it's the head of product development, like, Kevin, we're not going to be able to make it to the developer conference. So we need you to do this and this and this. And it's just like, this is your reckoning. Do you know what I mean? This is where justice is doled out. And then you're not coming for some reason. So that was all whatever. That was just the stuff that was driving me crazy at the fucking end. And I'm sorry, you're getting me on a tangent here. Very short tangent.
No.
I was big on thank you and big on credit. Credit doesn't cost anything and it goes a super long way. So anyone who was helpful or played a part in these games, I would fucking thank them on the credits. These same fucking morons that did all the stuff I described to you, as the game is when it's in its final moments of getting ready to be manufactured, it's a lot going on. It's chaos. You're getting new versions of the game every day with tiny tweaks, and those have to be tested and on and on and on. And wait, hold on. I'm right at the payoff. Oh yeah. So then these guys are like, have you run your thanks list through legal? I'm like, run my thanks list through legal? For what? Plus, we have like a million real things to do right now. Do you know what I mean? Oh, well, you think you can just put someone's name in the credits? I'm like, yeah, I've been doing it for years. It's called a thank you list. Special thanks. The credits exist in every media. Mm, you would need a legal release from each person if you want to include their name in the video game. And it's like, no, no, I don't. So then it became this ongoing thing where they would always try to press me, like they in their mind thought I was going to go get a signed release from everyone that's on the thank you list. And I'd just be like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So then every week, any updates? And it would just be like, no, I'm not fucking doing it. And everyone that's thanked is going to be fucking thanked. And back then the books were printed too. Now everything's just in the game. But yeah, they're all being thanked. And fuck you. But anyway, you've tapped into my rage. But
I
that's how
feel
that
like
guy talked too.
that,
And even the lip, no, you think you can do this? And you just be sitting there like, who are you?
you're like, I'm gonna take you to a show, and I'm gonna get a guy to spin kick you in the fucking face.
Yeah, exactly. I wish I could have got that guy from the Biohazard show, man.
Exactly.
Hey,
Uh,
hey, dude, come stand right in front of this guy. And they just give the guy the nudge, and he's just like,
Kevin, this has been awesome, and
I'm sorry to ramble so much,
no,
dude. Like
dude,
you
it's
just you open
amazing.
up so many doors, man.
I love it, and I love it, and I got like a sheet of questions I didn't even get to. So yeah, come back again, man, anytime.
100%. Shout out to our boy Mike Rivera. This is
Absolutely.
we
Rest
were
in
talking about the
peace.
cover of the record. This is like the actual. I guess he sent me both of these in the same envelope. It was like the actual photo that we used to lay out the record and this. But yeah, love you, Mike, forever. Rest in peace. Shout out to the whole Bronx tribe. Shout out to everyone who ever believed in SFT Records or me. And shout out to everyone, including MVP, whether he likes or does not like deathmatch. Fucking wrestling. It's all good, baby. Different strokes for different folks. On one hand, I have spent 0 days of my life listening to Steely Dan. And with all due respect to MVP, I would be content to spend the rest of my life never listening to them. However, his love and enjoyment of them makes me like low key happy. Like I love the fact that he loves it that much. And I'll be honest, there's been times where I'm just looking through something and I'll see like Steely Dan announces tour dates or whatever, and I'll send the link right to him. Like, you know what? I don't know how tuned in you are with the day-to-day announcements and machinations, but this shit just got announced, or I see they're coming to your. He's the only guy that I could send a thing that's sick of it all is playing his town, and Steely Dan is playing his town, and his passion and interest in both would be the same.
Yeah, no, I feel like he loves the only reason he and I get along is because of our shared love of punk and hardcore. I really do think that like there's a lot of things like the veganism stuff. I wonder if I sent him Juice World, a freestyle that Juice World did. Oh shit, that did not go over well
I can't imagine it
at,
would.
at
Please don't
all.
ever send me any Juice World.
Kevin, I'm going to say this song because it's pretty amazing.
Maybe it is. I mean, coming from you, I would. I've never had any interest in just like Steely Dan. I've never
Uh,
had any interest in hearing Juice World. However, if this is how you feel about it, I'd give it at least is like 45 seconds enough, like to make a measure a
it's a
judgment.
freestyle, and I sent it to him because it's like amazing because
Oh,
he
okay.
ad libs a melody on it that I'm like, this is really cool. Not in MVP's eyes, not at
He
all.
almost got blocked.
Whoosh, whoosh. It was a pretty swift smacking down of the Juice World song.
I always
Um,
remember MVP when he back years ago he was in TNA wrestling, and he's the only wrestler to ever quit a company by posting Bad Brains lyrics on social media. And he just basically tweeted at TNA like that he's sailing on. Yeah, I'm moving on, sailing on, whatever. And he that was it. That
yep.
was the end of MVP in TNA. And that's fucking punk rock. That's fucking hardcore.
No, it's amazing. It's like, yeah, I don't know, like the guys, the punk rock people in wrestling, Brookside, uh,
Oh, love
MVP,
Robbie Brookside, man.
the best. Like Robbie Brookside, I think he told me that he was ordering from you before he met you, just as
Yeah.
a fan of the label.
And then I think I want to say, so basically there was a few times where, yeah, Robbie used to order records for me and write me letters and we would correspond. And then we weren't in touch, but I wanted to be in touch with them. And I remember a few times I posted on social media, like, hey, does anyone know where I could find Robbie Brookside or whatever? And I could be wrong, but either way, respect due. I believe it was Chris Hero who was like, here's how you get in touch with Robbie Brookside. Robbie, like, hey, like it was just instant connection. And I've had some great fun and experiences hanging out with Robbie Brookside, man. What a fucking guy, man.
Yeah, and like no diss on anyone else who claims punk in pro wrestling, but no one outpunks Robbie Brookside, even in
No,
punk.
he's as because he doesn't he's not just on hardcore or just punk, like he's on the whole thing. A historian, knowledgeable, collector, like he's got, and if you just bring anything up, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
He's got it, he knows it.
yeah, it's like he's the one guy who's at the same time he's ordering New York hardcore from you, he's bringing members of like Huggy Bear and Thatcher on Acid to wrestling shows in England and hanging out with Scream. Like when I brought Robbie Brookside up to the Stahl Brothers from Scream, they were like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like that? Yeah, we know that guy. Remember that guy? Like
Wow.
it's like, and I think it's like only probably people listening to this thing and you and me, like you have to be so deep in both worlds to appreciate his level of connectedness to these two worlds. Like if you don't know wrestling on a really deep level, you're not going to realize that he's arguably one of the best wrestlers of all time because all the best wrestlers say he's one of the best of all time. And
And then you look at the work he puts in now in terms of shaping the next generation of wrestlers at the WWE Performance Center and all that. And before that, when they were doing the UK specific stuff, he's been such a regular contributor and collaborator, and he's got the respect of everyone. And yeah, he's as real as it gets. Yeah, like his knowledge, his passion, all of that stuff. And that's what I love is that he's someone, again, his love of wrestling obviously is strong, but there was something in this music, something in this community, something in this scene, something that in his small village in England, he was probably the only punk rocker, or he was maybe the second one, or whatever it might be. But same thing we were talking about with District 9 or whatever. He went against all the grain, he went against all the societal norms. The fact that other people didn't like it meant less than fucking nothing to him. It only gave him more room to like it more himself, and it motivated him. It got him to where he is today. Like that passion of hardcore, that spirit of it is in him, and you can't. Like Andrew WK said, the more that you can give it, then the more it will be. But if you do not have it, you can't take it from me. I love that. That's even though the actual lyric is "you can take it from me," because like the spirit of community, I like it the other way. The
yeah,
more that you can give it, then the more it will be. And if you do not have it, you can't take it from me because it's not. You know what I'm saying? Like what Robbie Brookside has, what you have, what MVP has, that's yours. And someone could be influenced by you. Someone could want to have that same acclaim, but it's not something you can just take. It's not like a hat or a jacket that you can just put on. It's part of who you are. It's part of how you think. It's part of how you see the world and how you conduct yourself. And that's uh, kind of the takeaway, I think, of I wish more people could shape their perspective through the hardcore reality of this music. While everyone else is worried about whoa, should we fly to France to see Taylor Swift because the tickets are $200 cheaper than they are in New Jersey? And God bless her or whatever, but I don't give a fuck about any of that. I want to hear music. I want to feel music. I want people that overcame fucked up shit and are now venting their spleen and giving us all an opportunity to learn and grow and change the world to be a fucking better place. You know what I mean?
well, I can't think of a better way to end it, Kevin. Anytime, buddy, you're always welcome here. Thank everyone for watching the first stream of Streams from the Gutter.